Welcome to Mic Drop, the podcast where relevancy is irrelevant and we don't give a shit about your feelings.
Ladies and gentlemen, in breaking tradition of the Mic Drop podcast, I'm not going to go through all of the accolades and accomplishments that my next guest has accomplished because he's already been on here. This is a round two of a gentleman who I am honored to be sharing the desk with today. You know him as Joe the Policeman from the What's Going Down episode of That's My Mama. Please welcome to the Mic Drop podcast desk, again, Nick Irving.
What's going on, man?
How we doing? I had to throw that. I was going to throw that in there last time.
Did you make that one up off like right now?
I did.
That was good. That was good. I like that.
I had to come up with something smart ass.
Yeah. I like it.
That's good shit. How the hell are you doing?
Tired, man. Tired from... It's been a pretty busy year so far, and then having a 2-year-old right now is like...
That's a real ball breaker.
Man, dude. Yeah. It's one of those things that, you know, your parents or the older people around you, they tell you, wait to have a kid.
Yeah.
I did wait, but I wasn't prepared for the mental, you know, tolerance that you have to have a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
It's like a drunk midget, you know?
That thinks you're loaded.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I didn't think I was working for a while. I was like, there he goes. Yeah. Took about 2 years.
No, I know it. They're I mean, my kids are a little older, but they absolutely give you the best of everything and the worst of everything. Yep. You know, like it's some of the funniest shit you've ever seen in your life and some of the most stressed out and worried you've ever been.
Can I fight this little guy right now?
Yeah. Are you old enough to fight?
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Put some fucking UFC gloves on him.
Heck yeah.
It's interesting. The anticipated, or this is what I thought, you know, was gonna be like, and then this is what it actually is. I know that's true for everybody, but there were a lot of things. Is there anything in particular, since we're talking about it, that you thought was going to be a certain way, and it's way different, whether it's better or worse or whatever?
Oh wow, sleep was one. He was born November 28th, my birthday. I made this vow to myself growing up. I was like, I'm going to have a child before I'm 30. And as it got closer to that time, I was like, I got to, hurry up. I was going to do the whole artificial insemination thing if I wasn't working. And I ended up working. And, dude, I want to say sleep was the hardest one. The first 2 weeks he was born, he was in the ICU. He had like some irregular heartbeat type thing where it would beat, then stop, and then pick back up again. But I was born with the same thing too, so they kept him in this ICU thing. Actually, I take that back. That whole part was a blur. It was like looking through a straw. When he was born, it was just focusing on him. Life was just kind of changing for a little bit. Then they rushed him off to a back room. I didn't find out till later that his heart actually stopped for a while.
Oh, no shit.
And I was like, that's my son. He's a tough motherfucker, We're going to get through this. And seeing him in the ICU, I just remember being like, man, he's not supposed to be here. He's just a tougher kid than that. Bringing him home was the big eye-opener. Like every 2 hours, he would wake up, and then I'd have to wake up and stuff like that. And I thought Ranger School, I thought being deployed was hard, but not having that sleep, every 2 hours, bro, is like, so painful, And then I want to say the biggest thing that actually, I want to say opened my eyes was when my parents or, the older generation would say how it changed you for the good, And I couldn't compare it to anything in life other than, I guess it would be good to have a son of my own, but having him here, it's like, man, there's so much more than me, you know what I mean? Before that, I was more... I'll admit, there's an ego with me, and like guys like us naturally, but having like a little guy that you can mold and looks up to you, it's like, I can't let this guy down. So it was the immediate, 180 change for me,
No, I agree. I mean, similarly, I remember thinking to myself, like, why do people have kids?
Yep.
Like, how is there this many of them?
Dude, I'm only having one.
Yeah,
I don't know about
I mean, I have two, but I'd rather have. There's no way I'm having three. I'll tell you.
No.
But the thing that I guess always struck me is looking around and seeing people with a bunch of fucking kids, or just kids in general, and it's like, obviously the trick is sex.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
is that's what tricks you into.
Or the bees.
Yeah, but it just I found myself constantly astounded at how many people were having kids when I knew, you know, A, how difficult it was, but B, is that, you know, to me, for all those listening that look up to special operations guys and first responders and a lot of the guests that I've had on here for some of the amazing accomplishments, as you said, and I would agree, in that being a parent is one of the hardest fucking things I've ever done. And you know, to me, that if it's that hard for guys like us, then realize that, you know, if you're not just a parent, but a good parent, and you give a shit and you put the time in, that's something to be fucking proud of, because that shit is not easy.
And, you know, moms, I would say moms too, you know, I'm not going to say I look at women different. I always looked at women.
Are you about to throw a MILF joke in here or what?
Almost. No, not yet. But I look at them different now. Not in a I ever looked at them in a negative way, but just like the birth process, the 9 months of carrying a little human inside you, and then the amount of love that I don't know. I guess it's different for guys. I can not be detached, but it's like I'm not as. It's a different type of love that only a mom can give. You know what I mean? I'm more of I like to do guy stuff. You know, I can't wait till he gets to the age where we can, you know, play around in the mud. And right now he likes watching PJ Masks and this movie Coco. I watched Coco 5 times yesterday, bro. It's this movie. I know all the songs.
You sing along with them?
I do. I do.
We need to get that on Instagram.
I got a little high note I can hit. Yeah.
That's fucking great. One of the things that I tell you, this is no bullshit. Like, I probably laughed as hard as I've ever laughed when I saw that. It's the Dr. Demo Matt ATM heist thing, dude.
Yeah.
For those of you listening, if you have not seen this, you have it on your Instagram, right?
I do. Yep.
Go on Nick's Instagram and watch this video of. I'll let you tell the story, because Jesus Christ, it's funny.
That one hurt so bad. It was so I went down to this demolition ranch guy. He has this shooting range, and he's a veterinarian, big YouTube page, and they had this ATM. So I get a phone call at like 9:00 at night, and he's like, "Hey man, I want you in this video. Can you make it down? We're gonna shoot some ATM machine and see if we can break it open." I'm like, cool, no problem. 50 cal, that'll probably knock it out. Did not know. Well, we shot this thing with, what was it? I had these little flintlock pistols that I, you know, just purchased. I had a 38 special, 40 cal. We had 308 and a 50 cal. And we're shooting this ATM machine, and I'm thinking there's nothing in here. But there's that little thought in the back of your mind, like,
maybe.
Dude, what if? Yeah, a little $100 bill may have, you know, slipped down the back end or something. But, you know, I'm watching I'm shooting the ATM machine, and finally we get a portion of it broken open. We pop it open with the 2x4, our big chunk of wood, and I don't see anything initially. And we stand it up, and I see, dude, just wads, just a massive amount of cash. And like with anybody, you know, if you see free money, you're gonna want to get some.
The look on your face,
dude. My background. So this is what got me. It's, you know, we're filming a YouTube video that is going to probably get millions of views, right? And the last thing I wanted at the time. Well, I want now, anyways, if it were to happen again, is to have any, you know, visual evidence that we purchased. We have a ATM machine full of $50,000 in cash is what it turned out to be.
Yeah.
So I start grabbing cash, and I look at the cameraman. I'm like, dude, turn it off. And then the other side of me starts coming out, and I'm thinking, you know, if the camera guy does not turn this off, how far am I willing to go to keep this hush-hush? You know, this is our money. We can split it.
Yeah.
You know, all 3 ways or 2 ways. It depends on how this cameraman plays it out, man. But
he's about to get dumped in the
it almost got
wood.
Real, man. We're out in the woods. It's like,
God.
It'd do something, $50,000 and like a $60 purchase for an ATM. And I'm like, well, we purchased the ATM. Well, he did. So it's technically his money.
Yeah.
You know? Their fault they didn't take out $50,000 cash, but dude, that was going to be our money.
So how did it come to play where he told you that it was bullshit? Like, how long did he let it go?
Dude, it was in my brain like after about 5 seconds when I felt it felt weird, you know? And the Benjamin Franklin looked right, and I looked for that little blue strip on the side. Everything checked out. But in the back of my mind, I'm just like, man, it doesn't feel
like real money.
Right. You know, it doesn't feel like real money. And then Matt, the demolition guy, he's just laughing and laughing. I'm like, dude, this is a serious moment. You know, why are you laughing about this? And for a second, I'm thinking, well, maybe it's his way of, everyone has their own way of expressing excitement. And I thought that was his. And I look at him and it's just like, dude, this is way too much of a laugh. And look down at the money and it said, for motion picture money or something like that. And I was like, dude, threw the money. I was pissed, bro. But I brought it back home and I was like, well, I can go to the strip club and get a free dance and head out real quick. You know?
Oh, it's fucking great. So how many times have you done that?
I didn't do that yet.
Not yet.
I'm not going to do that
Not
one.
yet. Oh, Christ. Dude, like I said, I mean.
Get punched by a stripper.
Yeah. Yeah, no shit. So, I mean, half of the part of that I was laughing so hard is how he set it up too. He's like, Nick, you know, I figured, and this is part of why you're here and what we're going to talk about is the ability to have friends and be able to publicly fuck with each other like that. Is that he was like, you know, I figured you're black, and so what better friend do I have than to help me break into?
Right.
But you know, which speaks to a larger thing is that. Again, a lot of the topics that I have written down that we're going to talk about are related to race relations, and you've gotten a lot of messages, and as have we, in terms of talking about that further, because we spent some time talking about it, but there needs to be more of that, and I love that you were willing to come back and dissect it even further, because both of our bases of support have asked for a lot of that on a pretty regular basis. Here we are almost a year after our first episode, so that's good to see. But I appreciate, you being willing to do it, but B, on kind of a broader scale is the, Matt and you and that relationship to be able to fuck with one another, which leads me actually to one of the questions that I had, and then we'll get into some viewer questions, because I love to involve, any of the viewers or listeners and letting them have some input to drive it before we get into the kind of big ticket items that we have written down to discuss. But I've always wondered, like when you were growing up, when you were in high school, you rolled with predominantly all black guys, right? Yeah. And so I'm curious, did you guys sit around and tell white jokes?
No.
None of them?
No.
Not at all?
We had this one, we did hang around this one white guy. His name was John L. And that was one of the most eye-opening experiences that I've had as a kid, growing up predominantly around all black guys, seeing this guy named John come in, and someone tried testing John and he beat the guy who we thought was pretty tough up, and turned out John was like from LA, and he was like,
he was a white guy?
Yeah. But after that, no one messed with John, and he was like, we called him a black guy, so he hung with us and everything like that. But we never had white jokes. I think because mainly there wasn't, enough white demographic to actually, pick out or anything. Yeah. And if there were, I did always feel bad if you would hear a story or after school or something like that, a kid would get jumped or, just because they weren't, a part of a certain clique or neighborhood or a certain ethnicity, but that rarely happened.
Yeah.
We were all pretty cool. It wasn't really like that growing up, where we made fun of our, different ethnicities or anything like that.
Yeah. Was there much racial tension in your high school, or?
There was at one point. For like a year. These guys from Laurel, and they were predominantly white, and then we had the guys who were around my neighborhood. That happened briefly, but it was like, hey, both kicking each other's ass. No one was really tougher than the other, so it kind of died out.
Yeah,
Yeah. Then we just started fighting each other back, like normally.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the high school I grew up in. Granted, this was in the early to mid '90s when the Rodney King case happened, the riots in L.A. because of it. Like, it was a pretty racially tense time, I think, in our country in certain areas, and strangely enough, or ironically enough, Northern Iowa was absolutely one of them. I know a lot of people are like, bumfuck Cornfield, Iowa, like, who gives a fuck? But, the thing that the town I grew up in was big enough to to be it wasn't just a small podunk town. I mean, granted, it wasn't millions of people, but between the two cities, Cedar Falls and Waterloo, and the outlying areas, there's a couple 100,000 people probably. But but what it is that it's not far from Chicago. It's almost like centrally located between Kansas City, St. Louis, Chicago, Milwaukee,
so you got a good mixture.
And Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Like, every one of those big cities is only a few hours away, really, 4 to 6 hours away. So it ends up being, kind of a hub for, laying low, gangbangers would come and a lot of drugs would run through there. And there were way more issues than I think most people would think.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was curious. It's always something that I guess I wondered. Now, obviously, you don't speak for all black people, just like I don't speak for all white people. But and one thing, as you're listening, keep that in mind. Some of these questions are pretty generic. From the viewer or listener, and realize this is just my experience, this is just his experience. But I think having conversations like this is the best fucking place to start. And one of the things that I want to reiterate that I brought up the last time was the mutual feeling of respect that you and I have for one another. You have to have that. If you go into a conversation where I don't respect you or you don't respect me, and you try to have a serious discussion about something,
it's already voided, man.
Yeah, it's never going to work. So anyway, appreciate you coming on, and we'll jump right into the viewer questions. There's quite a few of them. Some of them are redundant, so some of them I may ask maybe a little different than what you, the viewer or listener, asked, but falls in the same category. The one thing, I don't know if you saw the picture that we posted of you in asking for the questions. I'm curious. Did you see which picture that is? Yeah. What the fuck are you staring at on the ground?
I was looking at my scope.
Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah, it looks like there's a fucking maybe one of those fake hundreds is on the ground.
Yeah,
like,
right. I would have went down way faster than that. Right.
I'm just busting your balls. It looks like one of those staged fucking looking down, thinking
that
deep
sweat
thoughts
is not real sweat either.
Are your pants wet? Or are those
I believe that's what she's. I don't know.
It depends on if it was before or after the strip club.
Right. They were wet.
Yeah, they were wet. It looks like you pissed in the pockets.
Someone just poured water on my pockets, and I rolled with it. It was cold that day. We shot that in Seattle. I was doing a video game shoot. I'm going to be a character in this game, Forces of Freedom. It's like for your phone.
Oh, no shit.
So it's a little war type game.
You do a lot of video game stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and it's some shit in the UK, right?
Yep.
What can you talk about that real quick before we?
Dude, I love video games, man. Like since a kid, my first experience or the first memory that I can remember was an Atari my dad had growing up. Just like if I remember correctly, it's one little stick, then you have the little TV or something like that. Mm-hmm. I remember playing that in his lap, something shooting something. This was back when I was in Germany, so like in the late 80s. And then the 90s, he bought me my first Nintendo. And I would skip out on sleep. Every Sunday, my family was really, really religious, and every Sunday we'd have to wake up and go to church. So instead of waking up at like the standard time, I'd wake up like an hour early to play Ninja Turtles or Super Mario Brothers or something like that. Just always been a big, big game guy. Then overseas, after a mission, before a mission, or if we didn't have a mission, I'd play, all the war games from Call of Duty to, Metal Gear Solid and stuff like that. And it's just always been a thing, like an escape almost. You got to be a kid sometimes. Mm-hmm. So gaming is what I really enjoy on my free time. And now that I have a son, it's like, I shouldn't play some of the games around my son, but I mean, hey, I was playing all types of stuff, Mortal Kombat, and as a kid. So.
Yeah, is it kind of surreal now being such a fan of that kind of stuff growing up and playing it a lot, and now like you're becoming a character in it?
Dude, it is weird, man. But as of recent, I would say within the past 4 years, I've noticed that this is going to sound weird, man. It's going to sound weird, but I think everything ends up coming full circle. Are those little dots in your life that we call memories all add up to something in the grand scheme of things. So you may not notice it, when you're a kid playing a video game or something like that, but if you enjoy it enough and that is a part of your life, it becomes a part of your life later on in the future.
Yeah.
Just started connecting a lot of dots, and to where I always wonder, how did I get to where I am today? And I look back where I come from. Either everyone's in jail or, killed or, just not doing great at life or something like that. I'm like, how did I get to this spot? Like my sister, for example, awesome sibling and awesome individual, awesome person, but due to circumstances of her environment and, just being a young individual, some things didn't work out to, where they should be or where, I'm sure she would have liked it. And, it's just, wonder sometimes how I got to where I am today and finding out those little dots in life. And Steve Jobs said it once, that once you start finding out how those dots connect, you won't ever have to really question things after that. Yeah. The dots always connect. Just keep connecting dots. Yeah.
Did your sister end up? I mean, has she gotten back on her feet, or is it kind of?
She has. She's wakened up a little bit. You know what I mean? She has a daughter now, so that really changed her life. Complete 180. Left the old lifestyle, behind, and is trying to follow into my footsteps. I've always been that big brother that was, I'd beat up all her boyfriends and stuff in high school and never allowed her to have any boys whatsoever. And I used to, fight her all the time to make her tough. And man, probably didn't. Should have laid off a little bit on the this is how you be tough. And
so now she wants to be a Ranger sniper.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Follow my footsteps.
That's good shit. Had a lot of questions about ghosts.
Yeah.
And have you seen any? You talked at length, about seeing them in the house you grew up in and prior to military service. A lot of people asking, have you seen any since or lately or whatever? And if you could talk about that.
Yes, I have, dude. So I want to say maybe 3 weeks ago, I saw another. I'm not going to call like a full manifestation of a full figure ghost or whatnot. I've never seen one like that except for when I was a kid in Walker Drive in Fort Meade. This haunted freaking house, man. Front door or the front yard was like a graveyard, and that full apparition of the soldiers walking past my doorway was pretty epic. But haven't seen anything like that. I just saw, dude, this like orb or black mass, like looked like a cloud at first, and then it formed into this ball, and then like went away. Just, I can't describe how it went away, but like went into like another dimension or something.
This was 3 weeks ago that this happened?
Yeah, 3 weeks ago. Staying at a hotel.
Where were you at?
Vegas.
Well, it's fucking Vegas.
Right.
Were you high at the time?
No. It is Vegas, but no, I wasn't. Not then. No.
I am curious. Have you seen any correlation of being high and seeing weird shit, and there being a connection with that?
I've heard of like if you take psychedelics. I've never taken a psychedelic, but what I practice now and have been for like a few years is I've seen stuff, stuff. I don't know if people want to call it. It's not. I grew up, Christian and was raised amongst that, but then got exposed to, not necessarily exposed, an awakening moment where life was not going so great, and saw something and led me to keep investigating how deep the mind goes and start reading books of, metaphysics, Socrates and Aristotle and stuff like that, and read this book by Manly P. Hall, The Secret Teaching of All Ages, and got into a bunch of...
Of all Asians or ages?
All, that'd be math. No, all ages. And, just experienced different things since then, practiced different things, and to see how far the mind goes and what this whole place is called life, Well,
and so do you, in terms of...
I think we talked about it after the podcast last time. I was showing you some stuff.
Yeah, like the crystals and...
Yeah, a little witchcraft stuff. Yeah.
So it's some shit that you'd been...
Exposed.
Fucking token on. And,
right.
I'm curious, as somebody who doesn't partake in that stuff, what do you find benefits? Because I know a lot of guys that, either use THC, whether they're
CBD,
tinctures or CBD THC combos, or vape pens that have the cannabis fucking oil in it, or just smoking straight weed or whatever. I know a lot of guys who have been helped enormously, whether it's sleeping or joint pain or anxiety or fucking depression, PTSD, whatever. What do you find you get out of it, and kind of what it does for you?
Meditation, mainly clearing of my mind, and when they say like it's a gateway drug, or I think it's like a gateway to the mind, and helps me to think and see things in a different perspective, Yeah. Like my family has a lot of history with either alcoholism, depression, stuff like that. And I'm not going to say I'm prone to it, but after certain life circumstances, combat and, getting out of the military and the whole transition of things put me in a position that I didn't necessarily want to be in mentally. And marijuana has it's definitely changed my life for the good, and understanding like all the medical purposes that it can have, and different cures for different things. It's not a class 1 felony type drug as it was once perceived to be.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like I said, I don't even fuck with it, but I'm an advocate for legalizing it, and that if you compare that or contrast it to, say, alcohol is way more fucking dangerous.
If you put 5 guys and 1 joint in the room, you'd have you had 5 friends. If you put 5 guys with all different mentalities and a bottle of Jack Daniels in a room,
a big fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you throw a chick in there, and then it's gonna.
Oh yeah. Then you have some Bill Cosby stuff on your hands.
That's no shit.
Right.
Have you ever fucked with any psychedelics or mushrooms or anything like that?
Strictly meditation, and might have dabbled in the occult a little bit.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in. I don't think we've been exposed to what our minds are fully capable of.
Yeah.
And once you learn to master the mind, you learn to master reality. And you can mold and shape it the way you want to and make things happen. And it all, stems from positive thought and altering your thought. Once you, I'm not going to say once you understand, but I believe that, we don't live, or the mind does not live, independently from consciousness or whatnot. I think the mind lives in consciousness, and consciousness being this big thing that we can't see. We receive information from it, and codes of life there, and tapping into that. It's like antennas, Yeah. And being closed off, and not watching certain programs, or not watching TV, or stuff like that. Reading more books. If you ever want to hide knowledge from the mass of people, put it inside of a book. That's the easiest way to hide something. Most people nowadays are generally lazy because of technology, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you deprive your mind of real knowledge,
Yeah, for sure.
Programming.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I guess I shouldn't say funny, but I know for me, as I get older, I read more. I know when I was younger, I was like, fuck reading.
Yeah, same here.
And now it's like, God, what a wasted opportunity, because there's so much knowledge buried in books that, are years, decades, or centuries, or even fucking millennia, for that matter, old, that you can learn from. And it's like, why reinvent the wheel if you don't have to?
Learn so much from it, and changed my life, man, big time.
No, it's good shit. And we'll get back into that, and I'm sure it'll weave its way back into our conversation. But in continuing on with some of these questions, do you like dogs? Have you ever been in a bite suit? Will you get in one?
Heck yeah.
A bunch of people ask that.
I love dogs. I have 2 German Shepherds. Bite suit, I've been in one bite suit. That was in Afghanistan, my last deployment. And I had never felt, you look at those the Belgians, and they don't look too big, like a, Rottweiler or a German Shepherd or nothing like that. They're relatively like skinny dogs, or at least the one we had was pretty skinny.
Yeah.
But when he bit my arm, I was like, oh my, with the bite suit on, you can feel just all the pressure. And I'm like, dude, I don't know how a person could take that and not have a bone crush or something.
Yeah.
So I had a different respect for dogs after that. Just Belgians. Dude, to be honest, I would love to have one, but I have this fear of pit bulls and Belgians. I think pit bulls, because of the whole stereotype they have behind them. I know they could be great dogs, but it's the look behind them and the perception that people have put out. And then you look at the dogs that we had overseas, and your dogs, they they bite, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm scared, not scared, but I don't know if I could own one, but I absolutely love dogs. Way more than cats. Way more than cats.
I was thinking of starting a Belgian pit bull breeding program to scare the shit out of you.
Oh, dude. If you mean breeding both of those? You have freaking, what is that dog off that movie? The Omen. Was it The Omen? That little kid who had the dog?
I don't know.
Pet Cemetery or something like that.
I haven't seen it, but yeah, there's been a number of people asking, you know, the athleticism and physical attributes that well-bred pit bulls have, you know, crossed into that. I've seen people do a lot of mixed breeding, and unfortunately,
mixed breeding with a pit bull.
Well, just with a lot, you know, whether you're crossing German Shepherds and Malinois or Malinois with pit bulls or fucking pick something. Is that, you know, most people, and I think it's human nature to automatically assume that you're going to get the best of each. Yeah. But you don't necessarily. And it's been my experience is that when you kind of open up, and I don't mean to get too in the weeds on a genetic standpoint here.
Weeds.
But speaking of weeds,
right.
Let's step outside for a break real quick. Right. Is the... You know, from a genetic theory standpoint, is when you do what's called an outcross, which is exactly what breeding a pit bull to a Malinois would be. Wow. Is that from a hybrid standpoint, is you're opening up the gene pool about as wide open as you can get it, and so on the problem with that is that when you open it up that wide, is that you lose consistency and predictability. So when you know, by line breeding and funneling genetics within a certain breed, you can control the outcome or have more control over the outcome. And so if you were going to do it, you know, you'd want to do a 50-50 breeding like that, a pit bull to a Malinois, and then take those offspring and breed them back to the prospective sides to 3/4, 1/4 it up so that you have now 75% pit bull, 25 Malinois, or 75 Malinois,
That's
25
be a
pit bull.
beast of a dog, right?
But it would I mean, I think you could do it, but it would take... I'd say probably in the upwards of half a dozen breedings or generations in this case to really hammer out, you know, a good solid line breeding where you're actually taking advantage of the attributes and physical characteristics, traits, drives, et cetera, that each of those breeds carry and put them in a manner in which it's actually going to be useful instead of getting the worst of both worlds, which is usually what happens. You get this scatterbred fucking dog that has the things you don't like about each side, you know, more into it. But anyway.
Dude, I saw this show about a chick. That was a guy. But I did see a chick who had a fox.
Did you just assume their gender, Nick?
I did. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I saw an individual with a fox on their head, but they were breeding fox or something like that to not bite or be more domestic, but they were still like,
was it the Russian experiment?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So that's how they did it?
Well, yeah, so, you know, and fuck it, it's mic drop. We're going to get off into the weeds for a minute. Is that, you know, essentially the way breeding works, kind of generically speaking, is that when you have any animal and you breed for specific traits, what's interesting about that is certain, you know, personality or drive traits many times manifest themselves into physical changes. This being one of them is that when they were breeding the dogs that were much more amicable towards people, that weren't shy and skittish, that would come and engage and interact, as they bred them more and more, is that their color patterns changed, their ears went floppy.
That's crazy.
I mean, after I think it was like 10 generations of breeding and keeping, you know, kind of, they had two control groups basically. One where they just kind of let them do their thing, but kept control or you know, maintained a level of collection in terms of, you know, all of the different things that were taking place within these breeding pairs on the wild side, and then the controlled side, which is where, you know, they're manipulating the breedings and they're doing selective breeding. And as they, you know, each generation, they got further and further apart. No different than, say, you take a domesticated pig from a farm and turn them loose, and fucking 6 months later, they'll have tusks and hair, and, you know, I mean, they'll change themselves. Yeah. Wow. You know, so it's pretty interesting, you know, breeding and genetic theory in animals. You know, I've learned quite a bit over the years in doing a lot of breeding myself and experiments and you know, just talking with a lot of people. It's been something that I've been into for a couple of decades now. But anyway, moving back into the questions before we start talking.
Dude,
about
I can go deep.
That's what she said. It is up. And speaking of going deep, what's the longest you've held a shit in on a mission? That's one of the deeper questions we've gotten.
Held one in?
Yeah. What's the longest you've ever had to hold a shit on a mission?
24 hours.
That's it?
24.
No
yeah,
shit. You
24.
shit like 9 times a day or what?
Sometimes none. Dude, I was the least water drinker on deployment.
Yeah.
So, like, if we had to do a pretty long infill, I'd drink water. It was, I don't know, I never really had it that bad.
Yeah.
Ranger school was the, I guess, worst, where I almost shed on myself multiple times. And that was after drinking some polluted water.
Yeah, like swamp water and shit?
Yeah, pretty much. Piss water.
Oh, God.
And spraying trees from my ass to 20 feet behind me.
For me, when I went to boot camp, I didn't shit for like 10 days.
Dude, yeah, it's the eggs or something. I was always told they put sulfur. Yeah. Saltpeter, yeah.
That's to keep you from getting
sulfur.
hard on.
I'm like, whoa, hey. But I don't know if it was that or what was that for? To control like the hormones?
Yeah, I mean, I'm digging into pure fucking old wives' tale, rumor mill, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I had heard. I remember going through boot camp that they put saltpeter, which I don't even know what the fuck that is.
Me neither.
Somebody could Google it, but that it's supposed to. They put it in there to stunt hard-ons and sex drive and shit in boot camp. I'm sure it's total bullshit,
dude. But to be honest though, I wasn't horny at all, and.
Well, I mean, that's probably good since you're surrounded by
guys.
dudes.
Yeah, you're right.
if you were, this is going to take a weird turn. I found myself unusually aroused at boot camp.
Yeah, Johnny looked good.
I think it has, in terms of not shitting and stunting, normal drives that way. I think it's just the culture shock of being thrown into such a different environment. But a little more serious question. What is your opinion of school defense? You hear about, shootings on a regular basis. It's a question I've had, a number of conversations. I've already given my opinion.
Do I think we need?
What if anything would you do? Let's say you're the president tomorrow, and somebody's looking to you to direct national policy on how to make our schools safer. What is your take on, from a tactical and experience standpoint? What would your take be on that?
From a tactical experience, the
the
easiest thing to do would be to put armed guards in the school, but then you're relying heavily on someone's ability to be able to process information at a very, very fast pace that's traumatizing. I couldn't imagine seeing, you go from an average day at school to having, innocent children laying in front of you. To decipher that, and then amongst all the chaos, if you have to, put down well-placed rounds, on target, that would be hard to do and would probably take some amount of training, but it is a good deterrent. It's a really good deterrent to have.
Yeah.
But in the long run, I would go as far as to do something that I don't think that we've really done as a nation, and that's look deep into mental health. And as much as cliche as it sounds, and as much as, people throw that out there as far as mental health, there has to be some type of national, plan or policy put in place that, even if that means, hey, this is going to suck for a month or 2 months or whatever, but we have to go back to square one to see, where the youth and this generation got to the point to where it is now. Yeah. Medication, it could be from something that the parents took that were prescribed, and then 3 o'clock on an infomercial you find out, have you taken this drug, then your child's going to be fucked up. Call this number. It could be something like that.
Yeah. I like your commercial voice, by the way.
Right? Hey, it's a 3 a.m. voice,
what the hell?
Right?
Yeah. One of the things, I agree. To me, I think the big problem that I have with most people's take, specifically or particularly on the liberal side, is school shootings are relatively new.
Yeah.
In contrast to the country's history. But if you think about it from a standpoint, and these are facts, this isn't my fucking opinion. The facts is that guns are harder to get now. That they're the hardest to get now than they ever have been in the history of our country. The harder they are to get, the more it seems to happen. Now, is correlation causation? No, not necessarily. But to me, that should at a minimum tell people that restriction is not what's either, even if it is exacerbating it, it's for fuck sure not the answer to fixing it.
Exactly.
Because it's the hardest it's ever been, and people are doing it more. So that, whether or not that's a causal effect, who knows? But for sure, it's not the answer. And so that's my biggest heartburn with, it's a gun problem or whatever. The other thing too, I was thinking about
Definitely
this the other day.
Problem.
Well, think about it this way, and this is something we'll talk about here in a bit. But when a black male gets shot by a police officer, do people blame the guns then?
No.
Why not?
That's a good question. Oh, I haven't thought about it like that.
Yeah. So why does the gun get blamed at school shootings, but not when the cops hold it? Right?
It's a hate thing. It's something that, even to murder someone, let alone a bunch of innocent kids, for another kid to do it, there's something happening in that kid's life that the parents did not see, and meet head on. And I don't know if that's the softening of this world we live in now, where feelings and all this stuff comes so much into play that it kind of overrides common sense on discipline and how you should treat other human beings,
Yeah. No, absolutely. To me, clearly it's a tool just like anything else. More people are killed with fucking hammers than they are.
Yeah, right.
Long gun, semi-automatic, we'll use air quotes, assault rifles.
And dude, I remember as a kid, there were a few guys who rolled around with guns in their backpacks, and no one ever got shot.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad had guns, not a lot of them, but I knew where they were. I could have gone and grabbed one. There's a disconnect there, and to me that has to be identified.
You would have probably got a spanking or something too.
I'd have got the fuck beat out of me.
There you go. And we don't have that anymore.
That's a whole nother topic of discussion.
Right.
And one thing, obviously we're both parents, is that, to me, just like with everything, there needs to be balance. And I think, we'll call it the 90s children rearing Me Too movement of stop spanking and all of this other thing is like the intentions are well intentioned. Or the sentiments are well intentioned in that it's when nobody wants to see a child be abused.
No.
And that the problem, I think, and you see this whether it's race relations, whether it's child rearing, you see it with animal cruelty cases or animal welfare groups, is that there's a problem, and we're so emotionally pissed off by it that we overcorrect to a point where we're doing damage on the other end of the spectrum.
Emotion, man.
And I think child rearing is that same way. Like, do I think kids should have the fuck beat out of them? No, I don't. No. Do I think that there needs to be a boundary of respect and manners and behavior that keeps in line with good order and discipline? Yeah, I do.
Exactly.
Because otherwise, if and you see it in dogs, you see it in criminals, you see it in children, you see it in every living, breathing creature, is that if there's an understanding of zero consequences,
exactly,
then there's no reason to do the right fucking thing. And unfortunately, both humans and animals, if they know they can do whatever they want and not be held accountable, they're gonna fucking do it. So
my dog will still break out the cage, and they're smart, dude. Like, I'll go upstairs and he'll break out the cage to go investigate, old slice of pizza in the trash can at the very bottom with trash all on top.
I know it, and he'll go ahead and spread that all over your house too. Right?
And put some on your couch over here.
No shit. One of the other questions: did you get to? I already know the answer to this, but did you get to keep Dirty Diana?
What do you think?
Yeah, I know you didn't.
There you go.
But
that would be government.
Property
and possibly jail time.
Fuck, especially in today's Army and Navy and whatever. Christ, they're hanging.
I kept pieces of her though.
No shit.
I kept her ass.
Yeah, really?
Oh yeah, kept her ass.
You got it packed into anything sexy or what?
No, it's just sitting inside of like a little box right now, with all the little hash marks on it. I'm thinking about putting it in something like like
one of these glass cases.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Put it in there. Yeah. That is nice.
Yeah. You ought. To me, it'd be cool to have like a shadow box with like, some spent. Because you have some casings too, right?
I have an old mag, old bullets, old spent shell. Oh yeah.
That would be badass. There's a.
Hey son, take this to show and tell.
Yeah, no shit. There's a shadow box company. I can't remember the name of it. K&W Customs, maybe I think it's called, that makes some really fucking cool shadow boxes. But to me, that would be badass to have like components of.
Yeah, man. When
shit.
I get old someday, to be something to look back on. Like, damn, I did that.
Shit. Do you remember who inherited the rifle, or did you just turn it back in?
I turned it back in. Dude, it was I want to say it was this guy named Christopher. He stayed in an extra year. That extra year actually landed him. It was a bad Osprey helicopter crash. Yeah.
Did you ever get fucked up in one?
No, I've never flown in one either.
Yeah,
dude, I've
neither.
always been sketch of those things, and they have been, going through so many ordeals with the Marine Corps and stuff like that. But
that seems like one of those airframes that it's like it's somebody's personal fucking mission to make goddamn sure that it gets in there.
Right.
I don't know if we've spent so much money developing this thing that it's got to work. But Jesus Christ, how many?
Are they still flying that thing?
Yeah, I was just out in California for a fundraiser a few weeks ago. I was driving down 5 South, and I see fucking 3 Ospreys flying around. I mean, they look weird.
That's just sketch. I don't trust them anymore.
Yeah. They look like some shit out of a fucking Star Wars movie or something, But speaking of movies, what is your favorite movie? Several people ask that.
Whew.
Do you have one?
Wow, favorite.
Does
Dude,
it have
there's
an
a
adult
couple.
title?
There's a couple. I would have to give me my top 3 would have to be
Navy SEALs. Yeah.
That's top 5. I'll say top 5. I'll put Navy because that's one of the only reasons that I wanted to be a Navy SEAL in the beginning. Yeah. And watching the Charlie Sheen movies and the sniper in the one Navy SEAL movie called God.
Yeah.
I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
So I put that top 5. But top 3 I could go to any day of the week. Saving Private Ryan. Here's the twist. Limitless. No, Inception. Oh man, this is gonna be Matrix is up there too. I just watched The Matrix.
Were you high watching that?
No, I just that would be a crazy one.
Yeah.
Matrix. Yeah, I'll put The Matrix.
Matrix. That's actually, I'm kind of surprised by those answers a little bit. Saving Private Ryan is one of my favorites too, for sure. But
I'll cry on that one.
Yeah, that movie's fucking incredible.
Oh yeah.
So well done too. From holy shit, they got it. You
right.
know? Fucking nuts. But
they need another one like that, man. Yeah. I think as close as they got was probably Lone Survivor.
Did you ever watch the Band of Brothers series?
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean to me that's fucking right up there,
dude.
Too,
if that were a movie, I'd put that up there with top 1.
We talked a little bit about this on the last one, but I had a number of questions. I'm just going to kind of lump them all into the same multi-part question. Favorite caliber? What bolt gun would you want to use if you obviously you can pick whatever the fuck you want now, but kind of the last part of that question is zombie apocalypse.
Got it.
You get one fucking gun.
Oh,
what is it?
I'm gonna go semi-automatic then, with the 6.5 Creedmoor round. Less wind to deal with, less recoil to deal with, and I can, pretty much work that like an AR if I had to.
Yeah.
But it's like shooting a 5.56 round, but lighter, and you get way more, energy out of it, way more distance and velocity and all that. So I'd probably take that for my long rifle, 20 round magazine or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd miss very often if I had a 6.5. 308, dude, it's been so long, and I'm not going to say outdated. I think any good sniper should always master the 308 first. Once you master that, not even master, but become really good at the 308 round, you're set on anything.
It's the weed of sniper, right? It's the gateway
exactly.
round.
It's the A1, right? It's the A1 round.
Yeah. Did you ever shoot the 6? Did you guys have 6.5 Creedmoors, or is that not even something that?
I don't even think they have it now.
Yeah. I know it's an odd. It's like 300 blackout. Like odd round.
It's finances, man. I mean, this is what I guess I don't really get about. I get it, but then I don't at the same time. Where, you have a notoriously, famous or better round, for a sniper or a regular infantryman for that matter, or a weapon platform. I just think that we should invest more into supplying the guys for what they need, opposed to, well, this is just cheaper and you get what you get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want to win wars quick, give the guys what they need, better rounds, better, equipment and stuff like that.
Yeah. Is there a varsity squad bolt gun at this point that tops your list?
Ooh. I'm always a big fan of Macmillan. Knight's Armament. But right now, I'd probably have to say Spike's Tactical makes a pretty good one. Yeah, they're up there.
Yeah.
They're up there.
What is there a? This is my favorite scope. Obviously, it depends.
Hell yeah. Depends on the budget and what I'm doing. I'm not going to want to take a Schmittenbender or something like that to combat just because I don't want to break it, and it's a really expensive, piece of hardware. Run and gun, any day of the week, Leopold or a Vortex would be a really good scope. I'd probably take the Vortex over anything else.
Yeah.
Top 3: Night Force, Vortex, Leopold. There you go.
The Schmidt and Bender, is that what you said? I've never even heard of that. I'm also not
really
a
expensive.
Guy.
It's like the Ferrari. It's up there with the Ferrari of scopes. Yeah.
I mean, if you were to stack, put it on the same damn gun, that versus your top 3 day of the week, are you gonna? Is there that noticeable of a difference to really?
Just in accuracy, the clarity in glass. There's a difference. It's like looking at HD for the first time.
Yeah.
Remember when HD came out and everyone went from the standard to the HD? You're like, oh, this doesn't even seem real.
Especially in porn, I've noticed that.
Oh, yeah. Have you tried the VR headset yet?
I haven't. But,
oh, man.
The weekends.
Life-changing.
POV became your best friend.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a few
Keeping it real with Nick Irving.
Hey, there's a few pregnant porn stars out there.
Oh, God, I love it.
They're all from the early 2000s, though.
Yeah.
They're no longer in there.
Yeah. The what does something like that fucking scope cost? What is that?
Thousands. You can get 5,000.
Like the Schmidt and Bender one?
Yeah.
$5,000?
Easily $5,000.
Yeah.
Easily
God,
$5,000.
I mean, so you're spending more on the scope than the gun. In a lot
exactly.
Of cases,
yeah. Dude, there's some weapons out there that are running like $20,000, $20,000 rifles with all the hardware put on there.
Oh, it's crazy.
Buy a car and run into the target.
Yeah, no shit. Getting on a serious note, I know that some of the people that wrote some of these questions have been following you for quite a while and know you in some cases better than yourself, sometimes. But this question kind of hits home a little bit. How far have you come from the thoughts of holding a fucking gun in your mouth? Had a couple people ask about some of the lower spots that you've had in your lifetime and how far you've come and if you can talk about that.
Yeah. Dude, I've come an extremely, far away from that old mindset. I think that where I am now, it's, complete night and day. Was it 4 or 5 years ago? It felt like everything was gone, depleted. I had nothing left. Nothing was going right, We were just talking about it earlier, like in a workout and after an injury and you start working out, you don't feel complete no matter how hard you work out. It felt like no matter how hard I tried, I wasn't complete. There was nothing that was going to get me to where I thought I wanted to be. And I didn't know where I wanted to be at the time. So getting out was a lot of trying to find myself of what I wanted to do in life, where I was going to fit in, how was I going to, put food on the table for the next day. It wasn't supplied 3 meals a day like it was and stuff like that. So where I am now today is I've gotten older and, just spent a lot of time in thought. Like when I say I meditate and stuff like that, dude, I dedicate hours to, just deep thought. And
is that a day?
A day.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Start around been moving it towards the nighttime now. So midnight to around 2-3 o'clock in the morning, I'll sit in my room and do my magic.
So this is me making an assumption, but is it safe to say that marijuana and meditation and kind of restructuring some of the focus / priorities in your life has
100%.
Been the difference?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at the guy who started AA. He used psychedelics to get off alcoholism. It wasn't any program.
Yeah.
Just a mind altering. I think just the altering of the mind in any way that can be beneficial and not harmful, is always a good thing. And for me, it was helping to find where I came from and destroying ego. I had this really big, coming from the background we come from and not being able to live up to that capacity in a civilian, world was kind of that big, force on force meeting at each other head on,
Yeah.
But the meditation and for me, marijuana has, definitely helped out. I've been sober for 2 years, and just, understanding who I am and what ego is all about, and just dropping all things negative. I think that was one of the biggest things that, I held. I was not just mad at myself, I was mad at myself, but when you become so mad at yourself, you put it on other people. It's like that old mentality where if I'm having a bad day, everyone's going to have a bad day type thing.
Yeah.
And getting out of that rut was really, really hard to do. But once I did it was more of I had to force myself to do it. Look at all the positive things, no matter how small they were, adding that up until it overweighed all the negative things. All the negative things had already happened. Now it was all about building up positive stuff. No matter how hard that was to build up, eventually it would outweigh. And once that outweighed it, I would be able to move on from there. And that's where I am today, is more understanding of who I am. I don't have to be the macho guy anymore, and I have that more open, more soft side, and the perspective of life, man. I'll be lucky if I live to be 100 years old, and to be in my prime and actually enjoy life. I have maybe 25, 30 years left before I hit 60. And that's not much time. I look at how old I am now. Dude, that's
fast that went.
It's extremely fast. And I'm on this path of fuck it now, But my path is my path, and at the end of the day, there's one soul, one body that's going to be in that casket. I'm not going to roll over and say, "Hey, John, I should have listened to you." It's just me. And
I'm going to see how many ATMs I can break into.
Right, dude. At that point, I'm coming back as a ghost, man.
Yeah,
PIN numbers.
Yeah,
right.
Did you have any guidance, or whether it's a book, a manual, a person, or that helped you kind of? I hate to use the word formulate, but kind of organize how to do this, or was it totally
100%.
On your own, figuring out, just trying new shit?
Yeah. I'm trying to think how it started. I want to say it was reading a book by Manly P. Hall, and it was just the understanding of mind and thinking you will become. I forget the title of the book, but it was by Manly P. Hall, and it's basically just the power, within us, and the alteration of the human mind, how it can affect everything, and the subconscious, how it affects everything.
Yeah.
90% of our life is, spent in the subconscious state, our functions and everything like that. We don't think about our heart beating, and we don't think about breathing. All that stuff happens behind the scenes. So learning and listening to and reading about him and his, philosophies on different things was how to alter that subconscious, which, for me came through meditation, getting to that state and putting injecting what I wanted, to be on the outside into the subconscious, because that controls the majority of life. So in order to alter the outside world, you have to alter your subconscious. So,
yeah. So, it sounds like it was kind of figuring things, inspired by that, but a lot of the implementation of that, it was trying new shit and seeing what worked for you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is that what you'd recommend for people out there that,
Dude, I would recommend a lot of time in the mirror, And I honestly do think that that's the number one factor into wherever you are in life. It's the person inside the mirror, Not so much the physical form. Break all that stuff away, and that whatever that makes you, understanding that person. Yeah. And you'll find that the sum of all things that, or where you are in life is the sum of all thoughts and actions that you've, produced.
Yeah, I remind myself of that and tell people that all the time. Like, where you're at right now is 100% because of what you've done
100, yep.
or haven't done.
And I didn't realize that. Yeah. And that opened my eyes reading that book, and it kind of opened my eyes to, I'm here because I'm feeling sorry for myself, you know?
But it's way easier to blame somebody else.
Yep.
But yeah. Switching gears a little bit into some military questions, U.S. SOCOM. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on it becoming its own DoD branch?
I think whoa, wait a minute. Backtrack.
Yeah, so
I missed out on life. What happened?
Well, I don't think they're doing it. I think somebody's
gotcha.
saying hypothetically, like,
Gotcha.
What do you think of that being a thing? Like, do you think it would make sense to do that, Vice having, each branch having?
I do. I honestly do. I think it would be. That's a good question, man. It'd almost be like a joint task force or something like that. If you look up Joint Task Force 121, when I was, I could say that. Yeah, when I was in Iraq, I was with Joint Task Force 121. That at the time it was like Navy SEALs, Delta, CIA, and Rangers, and 160th and stuff like that. Dude, we were producing a lot of good results on the battlefield. So having one all consolidated, I think would be better for training purposes too.
Yeah.
You won't have to travel to Kentucky or something like that to use a helicopter. Everyone would be, co-located and be able to train on site. That way, when you get overseas, there's no getting used to anyone. Yeah. That might be a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I think I can see some absolute and definite benefits to it. What I would be maybe a little cautious or concerned about is two things. One is, how do you then, from a logistics standpoint, is there a U.S. SOCOM boot camp?
Ah, gotcha.
Are there still SEALs and Rangers, or are they all just SOCOM guys? Because you would lose some of that that autonomy and character of each force, which obviously any of us that have been through, it's like, well, I'd hate for there not to be Rangers, not to be SEALs, whatever. However,
I'll tell you what, bro, I am not swimming a mile anyway.
Yeah. Right? But so I mean, maybe, I think any of us would think, well, fuck, I would hate to see those go away.
Right.
On the same token, like looking at the bigger picture of saying, all of the nostalgia and sentimental value thrown aside, does it make sense to, and you could still maybe call them SEALs, Rangers, whatever, but they're all, to me, if you're going to do that, it would make way more sense to have a SOCOM boot camp, and then, basically SOCOM boot camp, and then your MOS is SEALs, Rangers, whatever.
There you go. Yeah, dude, that would actually be pretty, you'd weed out most of the guys automatically right there on the site. Yeah.
I mean, to me, that makes more sense to just have everything, because then, the SOCOM branch has its own free fall, has its own everything.
Dude, that could be the future of how we, the military wars are fought and everything like that. You have so much of a better cream of the crop, to choose from.
I think from a comm standpoint, being able to talk to one another and coordinate things, it would be a lot handier. But interesting question for sure. Good one.
Someone should run for president.
Yeah, no shit. How much time did you spend maintaining your sniper rifle overseas?
A lot of time. I spent more time painting it than actually. Well, I cleaned it after every mission. Almost after every mission, I would shoot the weapon. I wouldn't necessarily shoot someone, but it was either suppressive fire, warning shot, shoot out a light bulb, or something like that. But I would clean it every day. Not to the extent of, I would shoot it a few mags or run through 3 or 4 mags or something like that. Then I would do like a really, really good clean. My biggest fear was having my gun jam. And there were so many targets out there that I would feel like I was missing out on the party and letting a lot of people down. So I made sure my gun was clean and lubed up the way it should have been. And, the paint job was 110%.
Yeah.
And it would get scratched up all the time, but...
Yeah.
Had a solid 5 pounds of paint, I think.
No shit. And you just keep painting over it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. From, as an outsider now, what's been harder, being an author or a ranger?
Oh, man. Are these questions from
viewers?
Geez, that's a good one. Wow.
Yeah, every one of these questions I've asked so far, other than the couple that I've thrown in, are from folks off of either Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook.
I would say being an author is way harder. And that comes because it's so much more mental than anything else. The physical stuff, you can push through that to a certain point in selection or being a ranger or anything like that. But the mental, pressure that you get from getting an idea, making that idea into paragraphs that form a story and be able to make sense is one of the hardest. And of course, as like for me in the military to criticize my guys, it wouldn't be so much criticism. It would just be ways to get better, and starting off being open and vulnerable with the first book, seeing a negative review like almost made me want to quit because I had never experienced that sort of criticism before. Yeah. So getting over that and to continue going on, knowing that there are going to be people who don't like certain things, I've learned to accept that. But it's still, to this day, is still kind of like, I strive for perfection so much that if it's not perfect, and I feel like it wasn't it. I'll always beat myself up, even if it's one bad review out of a million. That one would be, well, I have to fix that to make it perfect.
Yeah.
And then the next one comes out and someone else has a different opinion. Yeah. So it's chasing essentially a high that you'll never get.
Yeah. It is interesting the public persona or the perception when you talk about ego getting a negative review. Similarly, is that it's interesting when you think of the time that we spent in the military. Like if somebody is critical of what you do and how you do it, the way that they approach it is in your, face to face. Here's the fucking problem I have with you. Mm-hmm. And what irritates me about social media is that because the one thing that you always know, and the reason there's a certain amount of assumed respect between comrades fighting, even if you fucking hate each other, is that you still respect what you've been through and where you're at and what you're capable of. But there's always, and Jordan Peterson does a phenomenal job speaking to this element, which I'm about to cover, which is there's always the threat of it being pushed to that next level where we're going to fight, and so because of that, there's a certain element of civility, but it exists only because that you both understand that there's a certain point where we're not going to talk anymore, and violence will ensue. And there's an absence of that in social media. There's no accountability. So somebody can sit on their phone or behind their computer screen, in their parents' basement with a corn cob shoved up their ass, eating Krispy Kreme, telling you how big of a fuck up you are with no accountability. And they'll say things to you and they'll type things about you that they would never, ever fucking dream of saying if they were sitting where we're sitting like this.
Dude, I was doing a live feed one day, not too long ago, probably a month. And on the comment, how it pops up, some guy called me a porch monkey. And it took me a second. I was like, what does that even mean? I've never, it's been like 20 years since I've even heard of that. And the one time I did hear about it was like on a comedy show or something like that by Richard Pryor. I forget who it was by, but I was told it was bad, but I've never been called that. And I thought about it, and I wanted to, say something back, but I didn't. I was just thinking, like, dude, there'll be zero chance.
Yeah.
I'm a nice guy. I've changed to be, hey, dude, I love everything. You know what I mean? I'm a tree hugger, So,
especially those green trees.
Yeah, those green ones. But there's also that side that I think people tend to forget. That, there's that other side. You know what I mean? That there's no coming back from. And I wouldn't think twice. And there's that side where I just don't fucking care. You know, there's no jail or prison that could punish me more than what I've already been through. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And to me, that's one of the most frustrating things about the internet technology, social media is that lack of accountability.
They should put a chapter called Social Media in the book on killing.
Yeah.
If you read that, and it's like the separation of, how you feel from a sniper to a mortar guy to an assaulter. There's that social media aspect where you have the internet, and Wi-Fi, that long connection, that disconnect, that I can sit here and talk shit and nothing will happen until I find that IP address.
No shit. That's fucking great. Speaking, kind of similarly to that, has anyone since you've been out judged you or looked down at you because of what you've done overseas as a sniper, as a ranger, a military guy, generally speaking?
No. No, I don't. To be honest, dude, I honestly think that people can't. I don't look like the typical spec ops guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not intentionally, but you just don't see too many black guys with that job title, and especially a sniper or something like that. All my idols that I looked at were, Carlos Hathcock, and they're all white guys, and nothing wrong with that. I mean, Carlos is my idol to this day.
Yeah.
But I've never been looked at differently. It's when someone finds out, they're kind of like, oh, wow, I never would have expected that. Mm-hmm. Or their next question would be, well, how are you now? Do you have the PTSD? And I'm like,
the PTSD.
No, I don't have the PTS.
Yeah. It's interesting the stereotype that exists, I guess, in that and you bringing that up. Has anyone treated you differently after becoming successful?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, whether it's good or bad, I guess. Have there been instances where it's like, oh, your money's no good here, like you get kind of spoiled, or have there been people that have slighted you because of it, or what?
Both. I would say more on the bad side than good.
Really?
Yeah. And that's just from like, and I don't blame people for that like I would I would used to. I just think that it comes from a time in their life where they may not be happy, and they see something on the outside. Perception's also everything. Everything that I post up and everything that people see, it's all perception. Most of the time perception. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't put too much of my personal life out there. Stuff that I have going on, of course, but the work that goes in behind it, all the tears behind that to see the cool stuff that goes on social media, dude, there's like 100 million tears that have been shed, nights that have been, dude, like pretty much out before every book that comes out. There's that stage of, I call it slight depression, but it's not that. It's more or less anxiety and a lack of sleep. Days without sleep, a lot of, rereading things. I wish I could have done this, wish I could have done that. But, dude, I just honestly think it's just people who are unhappy with where they're at in life, and they see where I am and are not happy about it.
Yeah.
They think that it happened overnight. But, dude, I'm no different than anybody else. There's just a lot of hard work, and I'm not a quitter. Like, I can't go back to where I was, and that's something that if I could have that whole thing tattooed on me, I would. I can't go back to where I was. I have a kid now, and I would never ever want him to see what I had to see growing up as a kid. Dad or mom crying over bills and stuff like that, and I don't know if we're gonna be able to do this and do that, and it wasn't fun. And then getting out, losing my vehicle, almost losing the home and stuff like that. I don't want my son to ever have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And dude, I'd rob a bank, and that's 100% without a doubt. If you see, hey, black guy robbed a bank, good.
Yeah.
It'd be me.
Yeah.
It'd be me.
Yeah.
I can't go back to that, man. It's just.
So, I mean, I know I've certainly experienced some of that too, where it is odd how, people I've never even met seem to fucking hate me or want to see you fail.
They hate themselves, man.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
It's weird, It's like people that fucking don't even know who you are, and you're saying I'm a motherfucker, and they just like they want any reason to watch, your house of cards fall down, and it's just
they want to see you slip up and also make that one mistake. And dude, I've noticed with social media that. Some of the negative comments, people just want attention. Social media in itself is an attention platform, Do people really care that you're on vacation every day of the week? Probably not. But you put it out there, not saying it's a bad thing. If you want to share your experience, I think everyone should do that. But then it gets to the point to where, let's be honest, we're showing the world what we're doing for a reason, and we expect something in return out of that. That's just human nature. Yeah. But then it gets to the point where people want that same attention, and they'll display it by saying or doing something negative, just begging for attention. It's like a little kid, They'll scream and shout for attention, and some shit on themselves for attention. Neither one of those may not be right, but it's going to get some type of attention. Yeah. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm going to write that down. Shit on myself for attention.
Right. Start doing that.
Yeah. Start going full fucking zoo animal and just
take off
grab
the
shit and start throwing it everywhere.
Right.
The next question is women in special operations and specifically as snipers. What's your take on that?
Dude, I still think we have to get past the part we don't have enough. I think I don't mind not one bit. I think, to be honest, women would be they would be a better sniper as far as being calm and things of that nature. When I've shot with females, they've shot better than men. More relaxed, more, I want to say, open to new techniques, new ideas, because 9 times out of 10, the females that I have shot with or trained have never shot a sniper rifle before. They don't grow up doing that.
They don't have any bad habits.
Right, yeah. And for guys like us, I grew up playing cops and robbers and stuff like that, and playing with guns all the time. But I think they'd be really, really good snipers. It's just in order to have implement women with the special operations, would have to be way more. And I think that the failure rate and the conspiracy are the problems behind it of not getting the same treatment as others is kind of in the way of things. You know, once we drop the politics from it and go about doing things the way they should be done, then I would have no issue. But then you run into human nature again, and 50 guys and 2 females, I can tell you right now, is just, it's just the way it is, man.
It's not a good recipe.
No, it's just the way it is. Someone's going to get knocked up. It may not be her, maybe 2 guys, but someone's going to get one, you know, PP.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I have a similar thing. Like, to me, it's not a matter of if. You know, there's probably some women out there that physically are capable of of doing it.
Ronda Rousey would beat my ass,
as well as mentally. You know, to me, that's not that's not the problem I have with it. Of saying like I don't want women to try it. Like I don't give a fuck. To me, what I like to reduce every question when it comes to military operations is very simply is, does this make us a more effective warfighting force? If the answer is yes, then fucking implement it. If it's not, then don't. And to me, it's the baggage that comes with integrating women into all male units that have historically been that way. I mean, you're talking about decades of all male culture in these units that now you're just throwing women into. I mean, to me, the better answer is just develop an all-woman special operations unit. Like, fucking go for it.
Yeah.
But don't make women SEALs. Don't make them Rangers. You know, and
be a lot of problems.
It's not a fucking social experiment. You know, I mean, people are going to get fucking killed, and it's dumb. I mean, to me, it's don't spend so much time thinking about whether or not you can or can't, and forget thinking whether or not you should or shouldn't. Which is the Jeff Goldblum quote out of Jurassic Park, by the way.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
First or second?
The original one.
Okay, so we're talking good stuff.
Old school shit.
Okay, the real stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's my take. It sounds like we're fairly on the same page with that. All right. If you were president and you could immediately enact one executive order, what would it be?
You asked that one. Wow. What would it be? Jeez, man. Just one, huh?
Yeah, I mean...
To change the world. Jeez. Oh, man. Wow. Okay. Here we go. I would have to say we would have to stop being the police of the entire world. You know what I mean? That'd be the first one. It's like, hey, I would get out of the Middle East. You know what I mean? Iraq and Afghanistan. I don't know about Iran or the other little spots that are popping right now, but Iraq and Afghanistan, I'd come back. Because at this point, we're playing a chess game where the king and queen have both been captured. You know what I mean? And it's just a bunch of pawns running around. It's been too long, man. You know, it's been too long. And, dude, I'm older now, and it's so weird, man, seeing like an 18 or 19 or 20-year-old kid get their face put up on social media and stuff like that. And, dude, I feel different about it. You know, I guess being a dad, too, you know, has changed the way I look at what's going on. And, I mean, Saddam Hussein is dead. Bin Laden's dead. You know, shout out SEAL Team 6. And Bin Laden's dead. I think that we're fighting people with just an ideology at this point. You know, the kids we're fighting, or the people we're fighting now, are the kids whose dads we shot back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s.
Yeah.
You know, so we're just fighting an ideology, and the only way to cure that is through genocide. And no one's gonna do genocide nowadays. So I just think that dude, stupid people are gonna do stupid stuff all the time.
Yeah.
You know.
Would a good synopsis of your perspective on that be to just be more calculated in the affairs? That
way more calculated and having an exact plan. So before we go into any country, man, there has to be a definite exit plan. Like, what are we going here to accomplish? And once we're done doing that, are we going to stick around and rebuild schools? Dude, my opinion, hell no. You know what I mean?
No, we ought to rebuild our own goddamn
Exactly, bro. That's what I'm saying. It's like, dude, you go over there, over there for one particular reason. They fucked with us. They did bad things to us. We're going to do bad things to them.
Yeah.
Once we're done doing those bad things, let's get up and go. There's no reason of spending an extra $1 trillion a year to help supply them with, 5G. I just don't understand that.
Yeah.
There's so much money that could be spent here at home. If you want to, knock out the national deficit, you could stop spending trillions of dollars annually fighting stupid people.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, so if you were to just put one executive order in place, I mean, to me, maybe the short answer to do that would be to say, if we're going to do anything, like, it's got to be way harder to just go decide to fucking get involved in here.
Yeah. And when we do get involved, no cameras. I don't want to hear the after effects of like 10 years later. Oh, well, this guy, someone said he did this, he should go to jail for that. No, we're over there to do what we have to do, and that's it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. One of the questions that a number of people have asked me, and I'll chime in after you do, but and a couple people even brought it up in this session, was what we collectively think about the Eddie Gallagher situation, who, for those that are listening that haven't heard of it, he's a SEAL, active duty, being brought up on war crimes, basically, and has had some pretty shitty pretrial confinement issues, and a lot of kind of tit for tat between the prosecutors and, fucked up evidence and, lies of people who are testifying against, all this other shit. Are you familiar with that, A, and B, do you have an opinion on what the deal is with that?
I'm familiar with it, very familiar. I think that, man, it always sucks when the guys you go to combat with or war with, decide to do something to you to fuck up what you have going on, I look at it now, I just look at things different, man, and I'm not going to be I'm always going to be, if you want to call it the Reaper, or have that legacy or whatever behind me, but that's not always going to be me. Eddie could have gotten out and 20 years from now been at a law firm, or who knows what, a school teacher at a kindergarten. I don't know. You know what I mean? But what we did overseas and the things that the accolades that we accomplished and all the cool things that we did, will it means so much 50 years from now? On my deathbed, will the same guys that I deploy with be there? We all have our own path in life and we all move on. And I think people get caught up in a moment and the hype of certain things, and they want to see something happen to somebody that, they're willing to take whatever extent it is to, see that person fall. And on the flip side of that, when you look at a place such as war, that environment, dude, to say anything is bad is weird to me. I think that it's even worse when the guys that are making these accusations, it's almost like, did we forget what happened when we watched people burning on fire, free falling from a twin towers? Yeah. I don't remember too many people saying, oh, well, we should play it nice with them for a little bit. You can go back on the comment section or on social media where it was like, turn the Middle East to glass and let's nuke them and do all that. If you're willing to go through that extent to level a place with a nuke or bomb the hell out of it, you're going to say these little kids and everyone else that are going to die, they don't matter. But what this guy did in combat under the heat of the moment, who's been trained to do one specific thing really, really well, you're going to punish him for that. It's weird to me.
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, to me, and this is officially my take, because I've obviously, being a SEAL and having the podcast and a lot of guests on, and we've even talked a little bit with some family members of trying to get them on and whatever, is that here is my position. Because I've been asked a number of times and have refrained. There's a reason I've refrained, and I'll go into that first. And then tell you my thoughts after. The reason I have not really said much is because I don't fucking know. The reality is that I don't know Eddie, and I wasn't there. Because of that, I typically like to refrain from judgment, and I wish most people would fucking do that. Is reserve your opinion on what you think happened, because you don't know the motherfucker. You weren't there. You don't know if the accusations are correct. You don't know if it's somebody that's out to get him. You don't know that if he did something wrong. I don't fucking know. And so I'm not going to sit here and take one extreme position or the other. Now, having said that, do I have my own personal feelings? Yeah, and I'll share them a little bit because I was asked, and that kind of dovetailing onto what you said in terms of how are there rules in war, is that to me, we have an all-volunteer fighting force. And those people that make it through the selection processes that are entailed as it relates to especially special operations units, it's very difficult. It's very selective, high attrition rates, cream of the crop, The training, years of high-level, expensive, subject matter expert-driven training. Mm-hmm. We're put in dangerous, chaotic, dynamic, difficult fucking decisions by our policymakers and expected to do our best. To me, while I'm not saying you can turn into a fucking Viking marauder, I also would ascertain that you ought to be given a goddamn benefit of the doubt in terms of saying, hey, shit happens and sometimes mistakes are made or the wrong people get fucking killed or whatever. But to me, it's escaping a blame no different than when, these same types of people who are on the side of let's fry this guy are the people who would say let's fry gun companies when somebody walks into a fucking school and shoots the place up. Is that there's a lot of inconsistency with the way that they are outraged on some things and turn a blind eye to the others. And to me, bottom line is that, don't send our guys to war if you don't want bad shit to happen. It's going to happen, and when you're fighting an enemy that, and I've looked, loosely at the accusations and I try not to get too involved in it because, again, I don't know the guy and I wasn't there. It's frankly none of my fucking business, is that, there is an element of, civilians being used and women and children. And, when you're fighting an enemy that's not wearing a uniform, right, that recruits children to put a fucking a vest on and walk into a fucking checkpoint and a 7-year-old blows themselves up. For the love of fuck, like, don't expect guys to be Boy Scouts walking around being able to deal with that. Yeah. And to me, what irritates me is two things: is the rush to judgment on a lot of people's parts.
The fact that there's sides gets me.
Yeah, I mean, there shouldn't be.
Sides, yeah.
But the biggest heartburn I have with the whole thing is the pretrial confinement conditions. Is that it sounds like he's been really fucked over in terms of how he's being kept. And to me, if for all the accusations, whatever they are, that does not mean that he's guilty. Innocent. And if they're innocent until proven guilty, why is he being treated like a fucking criminal right now? I think that's an outrage, especially given the amount of service that he's sacrificed and put his family and himself through. He's done a shit ton of deployments. One of the other, and that's all I'm going to say on it. That is my take. But and one of the questions in conjunction with that was how many deployments are too many?
Ooh, the most I've ever heard was from a guy in my unit. He did 14 deployments. He ended up dying on his 14th. I did 6. My spotter did 9. Dude, what is too much?
I think it's person to person.
It is, yeah. I would say it depends on what your psyche can handle. For me, 6 was about good for me. After my last deployment, I wanted no part for a while, with war. And for my unit, it's every 6 months we would deploy. So I needed a little bit longer than 6 months. I knew I wasn't right mentally. I had seen something for the first time that, hey, I thought I was going to make it clean through, have an epic deployment, career in the Army, and never see the devastation of our guys being, shot right in front of me and stuff like that. And I was, pretty much burnt out after that. Not so much burnt out, more just so needed time to process things. You know what I mean? That time wasn't, in my favor. So it was, I had to change of lifestyle, which was for me to get out. And the Army at the time was changing the laws and how people were being treated. When I was getting in, it was like old school. I'm not going to say old school. We weren't getting beat and stuff like that, but it was different. You know what I mean? And the guys that are coming in now, it's a little bit more, we have to appease to your needs and make sure we're not yelling at you so much and stuff like that.
Kindler, fucking gentler.
Exactly. Yeah. And that really started to chap my ass, like, as I was getting out. And it's like, what is this? And the new guys were a little bit disrespectful. coming in.
Yeah.
I wasn't so much, I would fuck with the new guys. Like, if they were coming in on a deployment, I'd walk past the room after a mission and, chime in and say, hey, did you guys save the world today? No, I did. And then like, just to be a dick. But it was just, to joke around and stuff. But it got to the point to where the guys would come in and kind of like, I don't care if you did X, Y, and Z deployments or what you've done. I'm a new guy, and I'm here to play Rainbow Six, in real life. And I didn't get that. It kind of pissed me off a little bit. I wasn't ready for that change and just saw things different, But for me, 6 deployments was too much. I could have done more but dude, for me, it was like, when is that car going to get pulled,
Yeah.
It was like death was right there, and I didn't like it,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's, some guys do one, and that's all they can do, and other guys fucking 19 deployments later.
Right?
It's just, I think it...
I look at those guys like, dude, you're a bad motherfucker, right?
I think there's so many variables that enter into that equation that there isn't each individual has their right answer for what makes sense for them, but... Got a couple questions on kind of creed, mantra, ideals, life lessons, and just kind of combine it all into one question. And I liked this one, is that if you spoke at a high school graduation, what are 3 life lessons that you would talk about? And that'll cover the life lesson, and then also, do you have a creed, a mantra, something that you kind of live by?
3 life lessons. Life lesson number 1. From where I am today, I would say, looking back at everything, is chase every dream that you deem necessary to chase. If you have an idea or something that you want to go after and do, as long as it's within the rights of not hurting anyone, not doing anything bad, go after it. I think that those little things that make your heart beat fast when you think about like, man, I want to do this, and when I grow up, or I want to do this after school or something, is something to be pursued and looked at. Your body's reacting to it for a certain way. And if you listen to the old saying, follow the beat of your own drum. That beat is your heart. So when you think about something or you have a dream about something and it makes your heart beat fast and you get excited for it, that's the beat of that drum. Start marching to that. Don't let anyone else take that beat away. That'd be 1. 2 would be understanding yourself first and what you're chasing. Once that becomes perfectly clear on exactly why you're going after something, it makes getting there that much easier. Never rush to judgment. Always plan things out. My dad, we grew up playing a lot of chess, so in my house was always being able to think 3 moves ahead of whatever it is you're going after. Your opponent, in this case, opponent being life. Always think 3 steps ahead. Never plan for, the next step, just to the next step. Always plan, have a continuation of, different ways to, I guess, hit your target. You know what I mean?
The long game.
Oh, yeah. Always plan for the long game, man. And never let anyone deviate you from that. There's going to be a lot of people who don't want you to do a certain thing, and you'll start to realize the reason why they don't want you to do that because they know you're going to be successful at it, and they wish they would have done it first. So, and always remember, only one person's going to be in that casket at the end of the day. And if you're a Freemason, merrily, 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 life is but a dream, man. Yeah. Live merrily.
Was that the 3rd or?
That was 3rd.
We'll wrap that up.
We'll wrap that. That's a tough one. It's one of those things that it all kind of evolves around the same. Life is all about, following your path, man. Yeah. Making your path and following it.
Would you say that to pinpoint or say a mantra or a creed, is that? Would you say that is it? My
mantra, my creed, that would be it. Follow your path. Follow your path. Yeah. Everyone's got their own path. We're like branches on a tree,
Yeah. Speak your truth.
There you go. Yeah. Speak your truth. Man.
To me, that's a bit of a pet peeve of mine. Is that when people say "speak your truth,"
right?
To me, it's like, how about you speak the fucking truth? And
there's only one. Yeah. There's only one truth.
That's my take on it. But now I'll get a million messages like, "I'm just speaking my truth over here." A bunch of smart asses.
There's only one.
Who inspires you
today?
Just generally speaking.
Wow. Who inspires me? people who are very, very persistent. And that, to be honest, man, when I am on social media and stuff like that, I'm a people looker. I look at people's lives, you know what I mean? And for me, seeing someone over the course of, let's say, 2 years, and if you follow them, you'll see where they end up in life or where they're going in life. And people who are always striving no matter what gets in their way, and it normally starts off, man, life sucks, and then I'm going to keep going, I'm going to keep going, I'm going to keep going, I'm going to keep going. Those guys are people really inspire me the most, I don't really put one person up above anybody. I think anybody we all learn from something or somebody. And for me, I have my days where I'm not motivated, or I have my days where, dude, I'm just feeling sorry for myself for no reason in particular whatsoever. I just wake up just like, fucking feels like one of those days, Looking at how people get out of their life situation, inspires me to do things day to day. Matter of fact, John Cena, dude, on his Twitter, he posts up these really inspirational, own your day, own your day, waking up every day and making it your bitch type thing. You know what I mean? And fully understanding that it's like from the minute, you wake up, having it set in mind that, today is going to be better than the last day, or I'm going to do something different today. And how that plays along in the long run, doing slight altercations in your life, things might suck, but dude, no joke. When I was having a really bad time, the hardest thing to do was smile. It's also the easiest thing to do physically is to smile. But cracking a smile forcibly is called AM and FM. What is it? AM is artificial motivation, actual motivation, and then you have FM, fake motivation. So you turn the switch to fake motivation, and dude, it changes everything. To force yourself, no matter what, to at least crack a smile, that slight alteration changes you in a certain way, because you're like, it really isn't that. I end up usually laughing at myself or something like that.
So John Cena is your hero, is that what you're saying?
I wouldn't tell him that, but I mean, he's put his hustle is what I like, and having a chance to hang around him, how he utilizes hours in a day. Yeah. There's a point where 24 was not enough, but watching this guy, go through his daily routine and what he does and what he can accomplish in a day, it's like, dude, I'm not doing anything. Or even big writers like, Stephen King and guys like that, Patterson, who are doing like 10,000, 15,000 words a day. It's like, I'm not writing enough, what I mean?
I can't hardly read that.
Dude, I know, right? Dude, that's insane.
It seems like John Cena and The Rock are very similar.
Those guys,
in a lot of ways.
I would say The Rock is a big one, too. I don't know The Rock in that, personally, but I think he's an alien, to be honest.
You've never made out with him like you have John Cena.
I actually have touched John's butt, right? But, their motivation is one of those things that is definitely inspiring, because how much energy can you possibly have, Yeah. And then we've all been through some things, but those guys, it's on a different level of 4 hours of sleep, 5 hours of sleep, and waking up early and owning the day, man. It's inspiring to me.
Yeah, no, it's good shit. I like hearing everybody's perspective on who they look up to and why, and it says a lot. Oh, yeah. Has starting your own publishing company been what you thought it would be? Mm-hmm. And what can you talk about that? To me, this is an assumption of mine, but it reminds me of like a CrossFit workout, and also like a lot of things in life, is that when you look at it, you think about it, you're like, fuck, I can do that. It's like brick in the shed. Bro. Like, yeah, I've never laid a brick in my life, but fuck, it can't be that hard. And then you go do it, and you're like, oh my fucking God, what was I thinking?
Bro, I thought I could lay tile a few years ago. I watched it on YouTube, and I thought I could lay tile, and it was the worst decision I ever made in my life, bro.
Yeah.
Got it professionally done, but yeah.
Professionally fixed.
It's a lot like laying tile and learning it from watching a 15-minute clip on YouTube and skipping, forward 5-10 minutes. Yeah. I don't need spacers, one of those, but it's like that, man. I do enjoy the ghostwriting portion of it. Ghostwriting is, I like telling stories, but the logistics side, booking guys and all that stuff, I found that, and then what I have going on my end, you can spread yourself. There's a lot of things that I want to do and accomplish in life. And in order to do that, you have to also have help. And I'm a big guy when it comes to, if it's not perfect on my end, I can't pass it off to anyone else. But I've been learning that, outside help is beneficial. I was a paranoid individual where it came to, why does this person want to help? Why does this person want to be involved in this? I would get really paranoid about that. This comes from old past childhood and stuff like that.
Like what's in it for you?
Yeah. I've never had generous people growing up, and I didn't have people who are willingly wanting to offer time and help.
Yeah.
So I always found that kind of weird. But having that now and understanding that is a big help. But yeah, having your own publishing company, beyond the writing is one of the. It's challenging, but not too challenging. Yeah. But it is challenging.
Yeah. It seems like it would be, again, to think like, I'll just get guys and bring them in and they write books and it'll all be fucking great. There's way more to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If there was an autobiography film done on you, who would you want to play you? Can't be Denzel.
Right? He'd play my dad. He would play my dad. Denzel and my dad walk alike.
No shit.
Yeah, they walk alike. They almost look alike, yeah.
Yeah.
The same demeanor. Dude, it's weird you say that. We've called my dad Denzel since I was like a kid.
No way.
Yeah.
That's funny.
He would play, Denzel would play him. Who would play, Michael B. Jordan would not be a bad one.
Yeah.
There's only like a handful of black actors to choose from. Kevin Hart's just not right? Will Smith's too old. I'd have to go with Michael B. Jordan. That's it. Yeah.
Oh, that's fucking great. Is it because Kevin's too short? Is that what?
Kevin's too short and too funny. Too. I couldn't see him as a sniper. Could you?
No. Well, you couldn't take the guy serious.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, he's too typecast as a fucking goof.
Yep. Yeah. I couldn't. No.
Yeah.
And he's like 5'2".
Yeah.
If I can slam dunk on you, then you're too short.
Oh, that's fucking great. So I'm going to move into politics a little bit, and then we're going to get into the big ticket race issue.
Boom.
This one, I was like, oh goddamn! I never looked at it this way, but it was a powerful question. Should anti-Second Amendment politicians, gun grabbers, etc., be tried for treason, since what they're doing is technically against the Constitution?
Should social media sites such as Twitter and Instagram and YouTube be charged for treason for the First Amendment? Freedom of speech. That's a tough one. I think treason would be a little bit too harsh of a punishment. To kill someone, are you punishable by death? That may be a little bit harsh. How are you going to do it? You're going to shoot him? I think that maybe a better understanding for that person. See, that it all comes down to the whole understanding thing. That would be a quick judgment for me to say automatically treason for this guy. I don't know his reasoning behind why you don't necessarily like weapons, or is he saying that all weapons should be banned completely?
Yeah, I think it's a kind of a general question. I think more on a principle level. It's just it doesn't mention anybody in particular. It just people that are especially here in the last couple months of the now 22 or 23 Democratic presidential candidates. A few of them have said like, I would like to outlaw guns. Then
here we go. I would definitely say, give me your political ticket and goodbye.
Yeah.
Go home.
Yeah.
You need to go take a nap.
Yeah.
Sit
Fucking
down.
dirt nap.
Right. Yeah. Right. I don't like that. That's see, politics, man. I think it's so weird that when they're guarded with guys with guns, it's weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like.
Man. No, yeah. To me, there's a shitload of hypocrisy. To me, it's kind of a moot point, really, in trying to take them, because you're not going to be able to.
Not going to solve anything.
But to me, in terms of this guy's question, my take on it, because he said, what are both of your thoughts, is that my take on it very simply is no. And the reason I would say no is that there are already amendments to the Constitution that have been authorized. There is a process for that. My take is that I don't think they should be tried for treason. Like, do I disagree vehemently with their position? Yeah, I do. to me, they should go about it the way that our framers designed amendments to the Constitution. That process should be gone through, and if they can check all of the boxes and meet all of the requirements to amend the Constitution, and they do it legally, then go for it. I don't think they would ever be able to do it. No. But to me, that's the whole point, right? Is that if there's going to be any augments or amendments to the Constitution, there's a process for that, and that should be no exception. When I do hear politicians say, like, yeah, I'm going to draft legislation, like, no, you've got to go through it the same way everybody else. Now, if they try to skip that, for somebody that just says, hey, through executive privilege, I'm going to say, or through executive order, rather, that guns are now illegal, motherfucker,
we should be able to it should be easier for us, the people who vote these individuals in office, to be able to take them out, too. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think, I find it hilarious when guys like, will say, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, or even, Biden is probably an even better example now that he's running for president. I find it laughable when a guy like that says, all of these problems in the government and, this nation faces serious blah, blah, blah. Like, motherfucker, you've been a senator. You've been in high-level politics for 30 years.
For a decade.
You were the vice president for the last 8, or the last 8 out of 10 years, you were the fucking vice president. Yeah. And why didn't you why didn't you fix it then? Like, you've been in a position to change things. All of these problems that you're talking about happened while you were in high-level politics.
Politics have come down to appeasing to the person's ear.
Yeah.
And winning over the ear. I don't think that, dude, to be honest with you, I think being a politician would be an awesome job to have, because all you have to do is just say things that people are going to like, but once you get in office, just take a nap. You don't really do anything.
They don't do shit.
They don't do anything.
Most of them don't do a fucking thing. No. 90% of their job is trying to keep their job. Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest problem with politics, which the next question is the two-party system, Democrats and Republicans. Mm-hmm. Do you think that only having two major options is ruining our country? Should it be changed?
I don't think it's ruining our country. I think what comes with the political parties, the stereotype behind them. One side has to be, dude, those little birds up there that fly around. Nuts. Dude, I popped like 3 of them at my house. They swoop down at your head.
Little kamikaze pilots.
Yeah, man. They don't do that shit anymore, though. But
there's birds flying around on my patio that he's referencing, for those of you that think you're on a bad acid trip right now.
No, right? Those things are crazy. But I think that the stereotype that comes behind the Republican and Democrat, white, black, has furthered division amongst our country. And I do think that by having two political parties is, inherently going to cause some type of division in our country. It's the inevitable,
Yeah. I don't think that only having two options is necessarily the primary cause, similarly to what you're saying. Mm-hmm. I think it's the attachment to identity politics that both sides play. I will say I think liberals and Democrats play it far, far more than Republicans, but Republicans are absolutely guilty of it. But I think that's the biggest problem. In one of the notes I have written down, we were talking earlier before we went on air about Candace Owens and just kind of how neat some of the different things that she's brought to politics here as being a younger black woman that I think is pretty cool. And actually on her Twitter feed in her bio, it says, black people don't have to be Democrats. That's her bio.
I'm not a Democrat.
Which I just think it's kind of funny. But to this question, of the listener, the two-party system, to me the problem is in that I don't know that the solution would fix anything. Because there's what is that right answer? Is it 3? Is it 5? Is it unlimited? Because at some point, because there are other governments that have lots of different parties, but then they have a minimum percentage of vote that's required, so let's say it's 30% or whatever the fuck it is. Let's say you can be from whatever party you want, and we break the two-party system. Now you've got 40 candidates, that none of them have more than 6% of the vote, and one of those guys gets voted into office, so it's like, I don't think that that's going to do us any favors either. You know, to me, I think both parties need to keep themselves more honest.
Boom.
It's easy for a Republican to yell at a Democrat how, you know, hey, what the fuck? And it's easy for Democrats to yell at Republicans, you're all fucked up and you're corrupt and whatever. To me, it's the internal policing that needs to be better.
Yep.
You know, if you're going to hold the other side to a certain standard, hold your fucking self there first. You know,
and that trickles down to the average voter.
Yeah, it to me it has to be that way. I think that would fix most problems.
And we have to hold them accountable for that too.
Yeah.
You know, as the voter, 100%.
Yeah. All right. So the big ticket items of race relations in this country. There's a lot of questions. I'll start with the first one. It's more on the general side. Do you feel that the need for labels in our society is taking a step backwards?
Yeah, I do. Labeling as far as like when it comes to Democrat, you're this, you're a snowflake and all that. Yeah.
I think it's, you know, and this is me making an assumption here, but the way I interpret that is labels meaning, you know, the kind of the identity politics thing is that, you know, you have to identify as something like, well, I'm trans or I'm black or I'm conservative Christian, you know.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think that causes a lot more issues than anything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
Do you feel that race relations are as bad as the media portrays them?
I don't believe in television. I think television programming is just that, you know, telling your vision and programming you to think and act a certain way through telling you visually. With that being said, I think that there are issues, but I think that the media has a really, really, they found their niche in finding something small or something isolated or something at all, and then forcing it to the masses over and over and over and over and over and over again. Like when you turn on the news and you see one person's segment, one talking head, and then right after that segment, that they're talking about the same thing. And it goes on throughout the entire day, just hammering home on something that could be significantly small or very isolated amongst the whole picture of things. And once you start driving that force home, then it causes some type of, you know, ripple in the whole effect of the nation. You know, people get on social media, then it becomes trending, then it becomes talked about on your favorite news station, radio station, and then you're taught to believe a certain way. You never form a real opinion about anything because you've been told by all these big, you know, talking heads and politics and stuff to, you know, believe a certain thing. And you're like, well, follow the leader, you know.
Yeah.
You've been trained that since you were in elementary school.
Yeah.
I think we've lost our way of being able to think freely and for ourselves, you know what I mean? We've relied so much now on, you know, social media, the news, and stuff like that. We don't form our own opinion. Like if I walk outside right now, as bad as this may sound, but I'm not going to get lynched, you know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. But if you turn on the news, you would think that, you know, every white guy's out to get me, you know?
Yeah.
And that's not the case. And to be honest, I've only had that happen a few times since I've been out. More recently, this is a crazy funny story. Best Buy, where I live at, this guy, dude, thought I was stealing something. And he's following me around, and I'm like, this motherfucker really thinks I'm going to take some shit, right? So I ended up not buying anything.
So I stole it.
Right? I just said, well, since you think I am, I'm going to take it, right? But I instead changed the way I would have normally went about it. I happened to have a few copies of my books in my car. So I came back in and gave him my books. I said, hey, man, here you go. Here's who I am. You know, never judge a book by its cover. And moved on and carried on. And
Did he have a look of embarrassment?
it was more or less he stared at the cover. It was The Way of the Reaper book is what I gave him. And he stared at the cover and he looked up at me and he didn't say much. He was just like, huh. And I was just like, hey, man, you know, don't judge a book by its cover. You never know. And I walked out. And then there was an issue in New Orleans where I was discriminated against, but by a black cop, you know. That was a bad experience. I've never had that happen before, where it was a black cop and a white cop, and the black cop was really messed up towards me, you know? I was like, this guy's a complete racist. It's the weirdest thing. If you ever see the movie Boys on the Hood, where Cuban Gooding Jr. is being pinned on the hood of the car by a black cop, and the black cop puts the gun in his face, and he says, I wish I could kill all you guys, or whatever, you know? That shit is real. Like, that happens, and it derives from, I think, self-hate. You know, when you've been taught through media or your older generations that, this is the way things are. And, when you hate something so much, you tend to lash out and go after the things that look like you, and for black people, I think also there could be a lot of black on black violence as well, is that, you've been taught to think about yourself a certain way, and you've been taught to maybe hate yourself to a certain extent. For me, it was growing out my hair, was a bad thing. And that even goes to Hollywood. I'll tell you a secret about that. Like, there was a little fight in Hollywood amongst me and a TV show that I was doing, and wanted me to cut my hair because I did not. Nothing scares white America more than a black guy with a gun, but nothing scares him more than a black guy with dreads and a gun. That's what I was told. So I was like, well, we're going to change that stereotype here, drop another book in 2020, But I think that it's just that we've been taught a certain way, and even for me, growing up in an all black environment was, this is who you are, this is how things are, and you have to be this certain way, Yeah. When it comes to police and anything like that, you're just taught a different way of going about things, and it carries on into adulthood, and you find out that things may or may not be all 100% true. There's certain truths to certain things, but it's not really as bad as what some people make it out to be. And I think that carries on to we end up hating ourselves sometimes because of the position that we think we're in. And when you see someone who looks like you in a somewhat better position than where you came from, you think that you're all supposed to be in a, this little box. And when you step outside of that box and interact with other cultures and people like that, you're looked at amongst as a certain way.
Yeah.
And it was a weird experience having a black cop, like really weird. I've never had to talk to a cop, a negative way. Normally, like I get pulled over all the time. But the few times that I have been pulled over, it's been, hey, man, what's up, bro? I have a few guns in the car. Not going to reach for them.
I'm high as fuck right now.
I'm lit, I'm not sure if I'm drying or flying, but we're moving, But no, it's always been good. It's just that one time that kind of put a bad taste in my mouth. But for a little while, and I realized, it's an isolated event, and it was the white cop that reached out to me on social media and was like, dude, I'm so sorry about that. It was that his guy was being a dick, and I was like, why the fuck didn't you say anything? And I get it, it's the brotherhood thing, but yeah, I guess it could have gone different.
Yeah. So a couple of things. I mean, in terms of the original question of the media, do they portray it as bad as it seems? Mm-hmm. To me, I agree in that I think a lot of things are manufactured, overblown, and more heavily focused on for a specific reason. And to me, that leads to a bigger question: is why? Is why would why would our media spend? I mean, here's a classic example: is that if you look at the numbers, percentage-wise, of how many young black men or black men period are shot and killed by cops in a, we'll call it a controversial manner, not even this is blatant, irrespective of color, like here's the situation, totally justified.
Yeah.
These are the cases where it's like, I don't know, it's gray area. There's a handful of them a year, right?
Yeah.
If you look at how many black on black crimes and violence and murders there are, I mean, it dwarfs it by tens of thousands.
100%, yeah.
So why is there such a disparity in media coverage? And to me, I'm just giving my opinion, is that I think that it's a manipulation of our society in keeping two groups of people primarily focused on something so that they're not focusing on other things.
Dude, okay, I'm so glad you said that. I'm a big believer I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but dude, I think that whoever's in control of a lot of stuff needs division, needs a separation. Because when everyone is together, you have way more power. You have power to do things and change things. As long as you have separation and division, you keep people weak-minded, fighting amongst themselves and focused on really, really small things and not the larger scale. Yeah. If we all realized we were a part of the same team, we'd be more willing to help each other out. I think that, you could probably but you could probably get rid of 90%, 70% of all, homeless people and the United States if we realized, hey, there's like, hey, I'm no different than this guy, this guy, this guy, that guy. If we all started to, speak as one opposed to two different parties, or I'm black, you're white, and we need to talk about this hate because this guy on TV said I should think and say this thing. It just is, dude, we've lost all free thought. We've lost all, self-thinking.
Yeah, I mean, to me, if you're listening out there and you think, well, that sounds kind of conspiracy theory-esque, which, there very well may be. My response to that would be then, will somebody then fucking explain why there's such a disparity in media coverage then? Yeah. Why is that? Because to me, until you can answer those basic premised questions of, looking at statistics and saying, okay, well, why does the media focus so heavy on certain things? I mean, we'll take, there was an instance of, I'm not sure if it probably technically qualifies as a mass shooting. There was a black guy with a shotgun that went into that Navy installation in the Maryland area.
A couple
of years ago. He killed a handful of people. That was a huge story until it was a black guy with a shotgun.
Yep. Yeah. I was going to say, dude, I didn't even know that.
And then it was, maybe we won't talk.
Same thing. Narrative.
Yeah. And same thing with the school shooting here in South Denver here just recently.
They didn't talk about that one too much, did they?
Yeah. And so here's another coincidence with that is that it's a super left-leaning, Democratic espousing kid and a transgender student. Were the two people that went and did it. Super anti-Trump, anti-fucking right wing. And so again, it was like it was this huge story until these people did it. So let's just stop talking about it.
Dude, I saw it pop up on my timeline, and I was like, there was a shooting at the school again, and I never got a chance to see who did it or whatever. But. Yeah. Dude, it's you're right. I mean, what's the issue, or why have the focus on one thing opposed? Dude, it could be for ratings too.
Well, I mean, to me, the common denominator that I see in when stories are publicized heavily, you've got a super left-leaning media that has an example of somebody who is politically opposite of them that just did something terrible, and so they use that to further their political agenda and make it seem like, see how fucking terrible.
And
these people
what sucks is that you have media organizations. They don't really care so much about the news, entertainment, weather, and sports.
No, they don't.
They care more about destroying this news organization and this one. It's become like clicks. You know what I mean? It's the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah, and I think that one of the biggest travesties of our society is having a media that has a political bias, and that's on either side.
Right.
Just tell the fucking story.
Exactly.
And stop trying to get an angle on it.
We've lost that.
Yeah, I mean it's poisonous. It's toxic to society. But I think the race relations, as far as the media portrays them, is that's how I feel.
It's not as bad as they would I guess, want to portray it. But there are issues, I would agree. And I think those issues derive from, how certain people were brought up, and maybe those feelings were suppressed. But now that they're on media all the time, they kind of like sprout themselves back up, and it makes it kind of comfortable for people to express how they grew up, or certain ideologies they were taught as a kid, or things that they've experienced. Maybe you've had a bad experience with a black guy or a white guy or something like that, and that formed you to have some type of, I don't want to call it PTSD, but like if I got hit by a Mack truck on the way down here, I'm going to have like, there's a Mack truck. I'm going to,
Well, I think it's a preconceived bias, and to me there's an irony there in that, and this is, from the blue-eyed white boy perspective, but it's that, the thing that I would say most minority groups, whether it's people of Muslim faith, whether it's black folks, whether it's Asians, people of Hispanic descent. Pick a group where they're enormously in the minority that has a gripe or a concern with white mainstream America. Is that what is the concern? The concern and the bitch is primarily a lumping of assumption to a certain group of people.
Yeah.
But by saying that, well, this cop shot a black guy, so cops are bad, you're doing the exact same thing that you're complaining about.
Yeah.
And to me, again, it goes back to holding yourself to the standard that you're expecting other people to be held to first, is that there needs to be way more of that. One of this next question I actually really like is, how do race relations, and this kind of fits in with that, how do race relations in society compare with race relations in the military?
There is a huge difference, a big difference when it comes to, if we had guys who were just outright Ku Klux Klan guys, I didn't know. You know what I mean? I never experienced anything. I'm pretty sure I know there were guys who maybe felt a certain way about black guys or something, but it never stopped me from performing my job or, getting, hey man, that was fucking good shit that night or anything like that. I went out to the bar, it's sad, every day or, every week just about. And all my friends were in the military white, and it was the complete opposite of how I grew up. You know what I mean? For me, it was all about understanding that other side. You know what I mean? It was all about, and I'm pretty sure for the guys who maybe felt a certain way about me, it changed over time, especially when you get a chance to know someone. Yeah. There's stereotypes that are 100% true, but then, dude, it's funny. I think that stereotypes, for the most part, when they do turn out to be true, it's kind of funny. You know what I mean?
To me, that's the whole thing, right? Is that, every stereotype in existence exists for a reason.
Yeah.
People don't just make the shit up.
No. And I've noticed that. I've looked around at even black stereotypes about black people. Oh, yeah, that shit is true. So it's kind of funny, yeah. Yeah,
to me, it should be funny. Instead of, and again, it's both sides. Like, I want, us collectively to be able to fuck with each other about it. No different than a stand-up comic. Like, don't go sit at a stand-up comedy show and get offended. Just fucking chill out.
Yeah.
To answer this question, my experience with race relations in society compared to the military, to me, the military is a textbook example on how to do it right. And there's two things that I'll add to that. Is number one, is that the reason why they are so disparate from societal race relations is because two things. Is that number one, there's no media, there's no outside external influence that's trying to pound a preconceived notion in your head with the military. And number two, it's 100% a merit-based system. If you are a shitbag, it doesn't fucking matter what color your skin is. If you are a stud, it doesn't matter what color your skin is. And so the entire world that we live in the military is 100% based on individual fucking merit.
The way Martin Luther King wanted it to be.
Yeah. And so to me, if it's not how do you, how can we possibly restore race relations in this country? Like the fucking recipe is already there. Stop talking about it and just go about your fucking business and do it.
Yep. We talk too much, and you're right. The solution has been put out there many of times, and the recipe's out there.
Yeah.
And yet, dude, it's almost like the powers that be don't want it to happen.
Yeah. Well, I think a united country means a fucked government.
Boom. That's what I'm saying. Exactly. You get that power of one, dude, and
yeah. Because here's the reality, and again, I'm not a tinfoil hat motherfucker, but think of it from this perspective: is that, as a society, right, the 99 point whatever fucking percent that's not a government official, think about that entire group of people, or overwhelmingly so, getting along and all on a united front. Is now where is the attention focused on you assholes for not doing your fucking job?
Come on, bro.
Because like you think about, if you look at the last, we'll just say the last 6 months or 60 fucking years, and every time window in between, is that or just watch the news for an hour. And what do you see? You see our government spending 98% of their fucking time trying to fuck the other side over.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, look at the
I
Russia.
can't.
I mean, the Russia stuff as a good example is look at the amount of time and energy that our Congress has wasted trying to figure that out.
And it turned out to be a nothing burger.
Yeah, but
as your news would call it.
Yeah, but I mean, so to me, it's like you're spending all of this fucking time, and again, both sides are guilty, but you're not doing your fucking job.
Nope.
Your job is to fix things, not try to fuck the other side over.
They're not for the. Yeah, we've gotten away for the people.
Yeah,
we've gotten away from that.
But I think that our military is it sets the perfect example as to how to squash race relations. Because I mean, from my perspective, and again, this is where plenty of people would say, well, it's white privilege, and of course you want to just fucking move forward or what. But to me, that like there is no viable excuse from my perspective, and I see enough examples in our society to provide me with this perspective, is that I don't think there is an excuse at this point for why you're not successful.
I agree. I have to agree with that. Yeah.
Other than staring in the fucking mirror. My last podcast guest is a good example of that. Hamidi Jassim. He was a guy that grew up in Iraq, and the stories of the shit that guy has been through. Yeah. I mean, you want to talk about real oppression? Like that guy has been through some serious. And
he's from
shit.
Iraq.
From Iraq. He lives here now. Successful, does speaking engagements, married an American woman, has a family, citizen. If that guy with that kind of shit happening to him can say, you know what, I'm going to focus on making something of myself, then anybody can.
Exactly. Dude, I'm a firm believer in that, man. 100%.
To me, a couple of the things that you had mentioned in your story about Best Buy and the cops, specifically in the Best Buy thing, and this is something that I hear a lot that I wanted to talk about. One of the most common grievances that I see, read, hear is being followed in a store. Basically feeling like the people who own the store, run there, work there, whatever, is that they're assuming that you're going to steal something.
I probably look like it too. The hoodie, maybe. And once I know you're looking at me, I'm gonna, I would probably look at me too a little bit.
I mean, to me.
I'm definitely stealing.
So here's my big question with that is, number one is that, if you saw a white kid dressed a certain way, do you think that there would be a similar...
And you know what, bro? I would say,
emphasis put on
check this out. So I get what you're going with that. Yeah. Like, trying to find a good stereotype. John, growing up, he dressed like what I would say back then is a black guy, dressed like us. And if I saw John in the store, I'm like, yo, John's stealing something. I know John's probably stealing. Yeah. But I mean,
skateboarder.
Yeah, that's the look I'm going for. Yeah, there you go.
Or let's say some, the stereotypical skateboarder look, fucking bone through his nose and green hair and, are they going to get looked at? Probably. I mean, somebody that looks way outside the norm of the typical customer is probably going to be looked at a little closer now.
100%.
To me, that's one element. But to me, on the bigger thing with that is that when I think about true oppression, and true race and legitimate racism, and that's another thing I want to talk about here in a second, is what that term actually means versus how overused it is.
I was going to say, in today's day and age,
is most people don't even understand what it means at this point because of how overused it is. But is that when I think of what does my worst day look like? Does if I walk into Best Buy and somebody follows me around and I think that person thinks I'm going to steal something, I'm going to ask myself one simple question: is that going to keep me from becoming who I want to become?
Right. Exactly.
To me, if the answer is yes, then you're fucked up. I mean, that's how I look at it. Is that is that irritating? Yeah.
Yeah, it's irritating, but it doesn't get to the point where it's going to. Yeah.
Should that keep you from becoming a Rhodes Scholar? No. And to me, that being profiled as it relates to police, or being followed around in stores, or the old white lady that grabs her purse a little harder in an elevator, it's like, you know,
I just want to see a purse. It's a nice purse.
I mean, to me, like,
What is that,
and
Coach?
again, maybe it's me being the white privileged, minimalizing prick. I don't think it is. Like, to me, what's the big fucking deal?
Yeah. I think,
You know, I mean, honestly, like, I've been beat up because I was white. You know, I've been fucked with because I was in the military. I mean, I've experienced things here in Texas, not being from Texas, you know, where people were like, fuck you. You know, we're honestly ruder to me because I'm not from Texas than a lot of things that I hear people bitching about because I was black in this environment. And it's this huge outrage. And to me, you know, again, whether it's Hamity or watching, you know, other groups of immigrants, you know, I mean, Mexicans coming across the border, you know, a lot of Eastern Asian folks, Eastern European, Eastern Bloc countries that are coming from.
You realize how bad we really don't have it.
Rough fucking spots coming here and turning themselves into millionaires or to successful business owners, you know, family, you know, having families integrated and assimilated into the country. So to me, I'm curious, I don't mean to steal the mic here.
No.
Is that given that, I mean, where do you see the happy medium of kind of leveraging not playing the race card to a point where it just gets used at every fucking turn as a crutch? Is that what's your take on that, A, and B, how do you fix that as a society?
I would say it would be hard for me to, well, not necessarily hard. I've been very, very fortunate, you know, in a couple of ways. I think, you know, is crazy, or this may even sound egotistic, but like, I'm the molder and shaper of my own destiny, and no person, place, or thing, skin color can ever stop that. You know, if I have my mind set on doing something, that's exactly what's going to happen. And the only thing that's going to stop that is either death or me quitting. You know, there's ways of going around different things in life. And let's say if there was oppression, or, you know, what was that called? Privilege, being something that is preventing me from doing something. You know, that wall can only be so long. You know, that barrier can only be so high. Fuck her, I'll just get a ladder and go over top. You know, I'll keep it trucking and go around it. There's always going to be a way around something. Some paths are a little bit harder than others, but I don't necessarily think that, I personally have never been put in a spot where a white individual has, you know, kept me from doing something. I've never experienced that, you know?
Well, yeah, and to me, like my version or my view, my perspective on oppression is is that if a certain group of people is actively preventing another group of people from being able to become what they want, like, to me, that is the essence of oppression. You know, and I would ask anybody that says that white privilege is a legitimate thing, and it's not an economic privilege, because let's be honest, let's say, you know, the family that I grew up in, God bless Sandy and George, we didn't have everything.
You were adopted?
No.
Oh.
No, but my point is that, you know, we were very just run of the mill, you know, lower middle class, nothing special, you know. Is a guy like, well, you know, use Michael B. Jordan, him being the son of Michael Jordan, do you think that he had more privilege being born to Michael Jordan as his father than I did? How could you say no? Right. So
I know you grew up lower middle class. Yeah, man.
Yeah, you know, so
most of the white guys I know grew up like from a background similar to mine. Our trailer park, I never had the trailer park there or whatever, but I knew a lot of guys who lived in trailer parks and really unfortunate circumstances who were white.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a shitty childhood, but I goddamn sure wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. You know, I wasn't given everything. You know, so my point to that is that, you know, with that being, in my opinion, one more wedge that I think certain groups and a lot of the media seems to use to drive a wedge,
100%.
You know, is that it ultimately ends up, I think, not only driving that wedge, but it creates an animosity on white men's perspectives, you know, because
I get it. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
You know, because I can tell you from experience, like, the one thing is there is no group of people and again, this is my opinion, but there's no group of people that collectively is not given a fuck in terms of what they think than white men in this country at this point. Like, nobody gives a shit. You know, if I bitch about something, what the fuck do you have to bitch about? You're a white man. You're a white, straight man that was born in
And it's gotten
America.
to that point. I remember seeing that on the news a couple years ago, where someone had introduced that same, dialogue where it's like, who cares what you think? You have white privilege and you haven't been through what I've been. I think that's a big umbrella to put on a demographic of people. Yeah. Just as the same would be for all black people to say that blacks are all lazy or something. I think just about anybody could be lazy.
Yeah, it's no less poisonous.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
When it's directed at the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
And to me, again, it all boils down to, hold yourself to the same standard that you want everybody else held to. And if you're not willing to do that, I mean,
why is that so hard, though?
Yeah, I mean, to me, one of the most chicken shit things that I can remember ever hearing when it comes to stuff like that is, and I've heard it a number of times in a lot of different contexts, is that, minorities, specifically black folks, don't have the power to be racist. To me, first off,
I've seen a racist black dude.
Well, I mean, the other thing too is the term racism. Since we're on that topic, it was one of the things I wanted to talk about. Is that I don't know that there's a more misused, overused, and misdirected term that exists.
You can't say anything
right
without having that thrown out at
you. But the textbook definition, and I'll paraphrase here, is that in essence it's maintaining a thought process that one race is superior to all others. So to me, if you make a stereotypical joke about a white guy, that doesn't mean you're racist. If I make a smart-ass comment about Asians, that doesn't make me fucking racist. No. And to me, that's one of the biggest travesties towards actual racism in this country is that crying wolf that everything is.
It's race,
And so by doing that, you remove so much of the teeth of that word to where now it's white noise, essentially. And I mean that in its most literal racist sense. It's fucking white noise. Why is it white? Why has it got to be white?
You're racist, right? Yeah.
But so, I mean, I'm curious to get your take on the term racism and how there seems to be like, again, this is my perspective as a black man. Do you think that white, especially white males, get bastardized more than any other group in that respect?
When it comes to the term racism and all that, 100%, I do. And I think the word has been overused a lot, way more than I think it's because of the whole media and having it always in front of your face. But I think the word has been definitely thrown out there way more than what it should have, and maybe put people in a certain demographic, painted them with one broad stroke of racist, and they're far from that, but they have that title on them, and they're looked at to be a certain way and treated a certain way because of it. Loss of a job, who knows what? But I think that the reason why that word has been overused so much is because of the attention that it's garnered or gained from it. You know what I mean? And they know if you use that word, and if you label someone that, you get attention.
It's like screaming rape.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. And it could be, I also, just after saying that, I wonder if it's like you cry something so long because you want the attention on it. Maybe there is something going on, and the only way to, I guess, bring it to the forefront, because something else didn't work, is by just saying that word. But the bad thing about it, little boy who cried wolf, is that you've said it so much now that it no longer has the same meaning to it,
Yeah, I mean, so you're familiar with that, the Jussie Smollett case?
Yeah, dude, oh my gosh, he ruined Black History Month, right?
I mean, so to me, I think if you make that correlation, that parallel, in that by staging an attack, you, without question, I would love for somebody to argue against the fact that by doing that, and now knowing full well what happened, what didn't happen, is that now something like that makes it harder. Exactly. If somebody is gay and black, or even just gay, if it's more of a homophobic thing or whatever, is that now when they say this happened, people are less likely to believe you.
100%.
So that's just one example, right? So now imagine that takes place 5 times a weekend in every city across this country, which people being labeled racists happens. It's nonstop.
Yep.
Trump's a racist. You're a racist. You're white. You're you didn't vote for Obama. You're racist.
Right,
porn stars won't do a scene with a black guy. You're racist.
Right? I hate that.
To me, it's like, again, if you're trying to get the point across of stopping it, you're actually you end up doing the opposite, in that you take away from when it really happens, but then you also breed and create an animosity in the group that you're trying to not have that stuff take place for, in that you're it's like calling somebody an asshole for no reason. It's like
that, bro.
I mean, like, if you call me an asshole right out of the blue for something very minor, I'm not going to just be like, oh yeah, that's cool. Fuck, I need to stop being an asshole. And be like, I'm not being an asshole. You're an asshole.
Exactly.
Anyway,
dude, these are the things that I think about randomly, like at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
What you just said perfectly. Elegantly.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's again, I think it all boils back to two main things. Is that I feel like there's a level of zero respect from a lot of minority groups. Like they don't respect the very group of people that they're claiming are being racist or whatever enough to even have a discussion with them.
We've yelled too much. I think there's been so much fighting and animosity and so much yelling amongst both sides right now. It's kind of hard for either side to calm down, take a step back. Not saying that one side should do it first. I think both should, ultimately do it. But it's just been so much, and we're still feeding off of this propaganda for the past 4+ years. It's been shoved down our throats that everything's racist, and it's almost like, dude, I wonder if there even is a way to come back from that. Like, would things ever even change?
I think absolutely that it is. I mean, I think anything is possible as far as that goes. I think just, again, modeling society similarly to the way the military approaches it, I think would fix it immediately. But something as simple as just having this goddamn conversation broadcast on mainstream media.
That's what I'm a big, firm believer in, man. It's simple conversations that, with no bias, I'm coming as the leader of all black men, and light-skinned people around the world, It doesn't work that way. I think little small conversations like that amongst two people who level-headed, I would presume to be level-headed, and, just want to talk things out with, no agenda behind it, what I mean, other than to get to the root cause of something and how it could be fixed or why things are the way they are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to me, that's the only way to do it, and I hope more people share this and have, folks listen to it to start that. But another good question in similar fashion that I wrote down that I really liked was top 3 reasons race relations have been degraded in the last decade. Because it does seem, I mean, you tell me what you think. I mean, if I think back to 2000 versus now, to me, it's way worse now than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah. I think, I guess one reason would be it's cool to be so different that you are a dick. You know what I mean? It's cool to be the non-snowflake, if you want to call it that. It's cool, and by doing that is by going above and beyond to the extreme. You're going out of your way to fit this a mob mentality. And the thing about mob mentality, you start to lose control of yourself. You start to lose control of your own thought and how you are normally on a day-to-day basis, joining this mob mentality. And we're all a part of a mob at some point in time in today's world with social media. You join this discussion or you see something happen, and when it's trending for a reason, because there's so many people on it. You want to be a part of that. You don't want to miss out. And whatever the, general consensus of the mob is typically what people are going to go for, and I think that being a part of that demographic that is just, oorah, whatever you want to call it, it's kind of like the cool thing to do now. You might not necessarily even believe half the stuff that you type on social media or like on social media. It's just I want to fit in. We've hit that I want to fit in society. Everyone, is special. And That's one of the downsides of this whole thing called social media, I guess.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you think that there's any specific instances that you can pinpoint in the last 10, 20 years that have been like, yep, I can identify as because that took place or because that's happening, race relations are actually now worse? And do you think it's just social media and the virality?
I think it's the puppets in power, the presidents, the people who are elected by the people, all air quotes. I think that when certain things changed, I think that people start looking at things differently. You know, I don't think Obama was great, just as I don't think Bush was great or Clinton was great, the Bush before that, Trump. I don't think any of them are great. You know, I think that they all have their flaws, just as, you know, dude, if I were president, pretty sure, you know, I'd have just about as much negative attention than I do positive attention.
Well, and there'd be blazing trees in the Oval Office.
Oh, yeah, right? Oh, dude, legalizing all over the world. But every day's National Weed Day. But look what time it is, 4:20. Yeah. But, I think that we just get so caught up in politics that, you know, it's almost like we're always looking up to politics to determine how we're going to function as a society and how we should think, you know. One particular thing, I don't know. I would have to say between the Obama and the Trump presidency is when things started to either really show themselves or clash.
Do you think it's because there's such a disparity between those two guys, like they're about as polar opposite?
There you go. Yeah. And I think it's that polar opposite that you get so used to having something a certain way for 8 years to a drastic change overnight, literally, that it's something that people are not willing to accept or see. You know, there's nothing more devastating than having the veil unleashed and you start to see reality different than the way you've composed it or to be.
Do you think that, I mean, as Obama being the first non-white president, and that's one thing too that I think makes it even more complex is that, you know, what is race?
Right.
I mean, and I looked up, you know, before this episode because I knew we'd be talking about it. I researched a little bit of, you know, some statistics, but just some terms. You know, Google racism and race, and look what the definition is, and then try to figure out further. Like, it reminds me of the Princess Bride of, I don't think that word means what you think it means. Is that there? You know, race is fuzzy.
Yeah.
You know, is white a race? I mean, because that's a pretty broad fucking spectrum. Yeah. You know, like a Northern European, blue-eyed, blonde-haired fucking Finnish woman compared to, say,
How tall is she?
Fucking tall, you know. She's not 5'2", I'll tell you that. She's probably fucking 6'12".
Oh, never mind.
Put that in your bank.
Right.
You know, but there's such a disparity, and even, you know, we'll say, since you brought up Kevin Hart versus you versus Halle Berry as an example, you know, there's different, you know, magnitudes of white, of black, of Asian, you know, Filipino versus Chinese versus Japanese versus Thai. You know,
it's funny, even in like the black community, you have light skin, black skin, and there's like a thing between dark skin and light skinned people too. Yeah. You know, it's
I mean, so Kevin Hart is darker than you as much as you're darker than I am.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I mean, so that, to me, that just further complicates saying this race is X or whatever, is that, you know, white people encompasses an enormous fucking span of people, but so does anybody with any type of coloring in their skin. You know, there's a huge disparity. But my question, I guess, would be: do you think, because Obama was the first non-white president, do you think that he helped or hurt race relations? Him himself, not just being elected, but him as a president.
Oh, I would not say he helped anything. No, I think that if I were to become the first black president, right, and I see a problem somewhere, to help, I think it only hurt because it was a lot of division, you know. And my big thing, dude, is like the whole, if I wanted to go there, it would be Flint, you know, and their water crisis. And I think that if you were really about helping a certain demographic, or if you thought that, or, you know, preached whatever he talked about, that would be one thing I would want to fix. But then I look at where we are today, and I don't think there's really a side for any race. I don't think Obama was for a black side or a white side. I think he was in it for the politics alone, just like any politician. I think we put too much power and faith into a politician, and when they don't come through like they rarely do, it's like a surprise.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird that we're still getting shocked that, oh my gosh, they didn't tell the truth, or oh my gosh, they didn't help us with this situation or help people with this situation. Could it be taxes, childcare, VA, black relations, or whatever it may be? I think that as far as him helping anything, no. I think it was more of a division than anything else. There was a lot of talk, and when nothing happened, it created an animosity amongst. I look at it like this. So if he went up there and said, hey, I'm going to help all black people, right? Which is like stupid to say anyways, because you've already, segregated America by doing that. But if you were to say that and you didn't come through with it, then all black people, not all, but most black people would be mad at Obama, for not helping out the black community. And then if I were a white guy, tell me if I'm wrong, I could be 100% wrong. But if I were a white guy, I would look at the people who only wanted something for themselves from the person who's supposed to represent both demographics or both, cultures of people, kind of like, well, what the fuck? What about me? Or not saying that you want anything, but it would kind of be like, why do you care only about one and not the other? When it should be, hey, in order to fix something, both sides have to have the exact same amount of attention and care. Or
I can tell you,
hope I said that right.
No, I hear you loud and clear. I mean, and you're correct. You're absolutely correct in that. To me, I think that that's human nature. Mm-hmm. In that, pick any group of people, is that if you feel as though another group is getting a better deal just because they're that other group, you're going to be pissed off by that, and that's no different than if again, pick any minority, whether it's black folks, whether it's Muslim, whether it's Asian, whatever, is that with them being overwhelmingly in the minority percentage wise, is that you're inherently going to feel like the world is against you a little more than somebody who's in the majority. But when a president is black and now you've essentially alienated a lot of the white people in this country, thinking, well, you don't give a fuck about me now.
Animosity.
Yeah, so it works both ways. And again, again, not to beat a dead horse, but it always boils down to holding yourself and your own entity, whether it's a political party, a race, a family, a fucking community, whatever, is holding yourselves to that standard that you expect everybody else to be held to first. Yep. And I think that is really not the secret, but it kind of is. I mean, it's just like, it's really that fucking simple. We talked a little bit about Candace Owens, and there's a couple of things on her Twitter feed that I found interesting, I guess. And I'm curious about it is one of the things that I see regularly with her and with other, whether it's, any black politician really is being kind of labeled that Uncle Tom or sellout, or
been called that plenty of times.
Yeah. So where do you think that that's a jealousy thing? Do you
100%.
think what are your thoughts on that as having been called that?
Yeah, I think some of it is jealousy, but then I also see it as being when someone. Okay, here's my thing. It's like, in the black community or whatnot, when Candace or someone decides to speak for herself or whatever her beliefs are, and she happens to be black or something like that, then automatically she speaks for all black people, or whatever it may be. I think that in itself, it's kind of like, well, where's your self-worth at? As the person who's creating and calling names and judgment and stuff like that. Where's your self-worth? Do you think you don't have much of a voice or, thought process, for that matter, that you can't form your own opinion and speak your own mind? It's like what somebody says, that's what they say. It doesn't have to apply to you, or their belief system should not affect your life that much that you're pissed and you have to call someone something out of their name. You know what I mean? Because they didn't speak up for your color or whatnot. And dude, I think it's one of the dumbest things, man. I've been called that for being on Fox News a couple of times when it's like, oh, you're an Uncle Tom. And I'm like, dude, one, my name's Nick. I'm not an uncle. Well, I am now. But, I just think it's one of the weirdest. It's stupid, man. It's like, God, it irritates me as a black guy. When the black community might look at some things that I say or somebody else says who has a platform, if you want to call it a platform. Dude, I think that just like it's irritating that you have a voice too. You know what I mean? I didn't get to whatever platform that you think there is, by just sitting on my ass and being quiet. I'm an outspoken person, and what I have to say, it's like, if it hurts your feelings, you know what? 10 years from now, you'll probably forget about it. 50 years from now, you'll be dead. So
rest assured, in any amount of time, I don't give a fuck.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's my whole mentality on it. I think that, it's such a one of those terms thrown like racism, Uncle Tom, and so it's one of those things that's thrown out there so much that it's just like, oh my gosh, what black person has not been called an Uncle Tom yet for speaking out either a common sense or it doesn't fit a narrative that a small group of people want to push, to be like, oh, that we're this and we can't do this and we can't do that.
Yeah. To me, not to interrupt, but I see that more as, when, and you see, Democrats overwhelmingly guilty of this is that, and I don't understand how specifically black communities in this country don't view it this way, is that, take voter ID laws of saying that that's voter suppression. Like, to me, if obviously I'm not black, but if I was black and a group of white people was saying, you're in such a shit sandwich that you can't even get a fucking driver's license, and we're going to go ahead and take care of that. Fuck you.
Got it. Yeah,
I can get a driver's license.
Right.
I can get myself to
That's what's weird to me, too. I don't know how that's voter suppression.
Or something like, there was a guy that, it was a Florida politician. It was a white guy that was running against a black guy. I believe it was for governor.
I know where that. Yeah.
And one of the comments he said was that the voting shenanigans that had taken place he said something to the effect of, he used the term monkeying around.
I remember that.
And people were like, that's fucking racist, and to me it's like, hang on a second.
Yeah.
If I was a black guy and you automatically assume that saying the word monkeying around is racist, that makes you the fucking asshole.
Right? Yeah. Dude, that's one thing that got me when that came out on the news. It was like, I didn't even as a black guy take it that way.
Well, and to me, again, like, if you do, then you're the one that has the preconceived notion.
Exactly. Yeah. What's on your mind?
Yeah. And that's what I mean. Like, there's such an overcorrection of, whether it's, we can talk about reparations or, equal opportunity or not equal opportunity, but I can't remember the name of the college program.
Where you get the scholarship?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, to me, like, anytime you're basing something off of skin color, now you're actually bordering into what's racist versus not. Making accommodations. Like, if I was in that position, like, motherfucker, I don't want you to give me anything.
Yeah. Dude, I hear these stories lately about the kids, coming from lesser means and
affirmative action.
Yeah, affirmative action. There you go. Where these kids are like taking 14 tests and like acing all of them. And dude, I think that's what it all boils down to. The person with the persistence and hard work and dedication is going to be the one to make it to where they want to be in life, you know? And I hate the fact that, I'm not sure if it is in every community, but I know community that I'm from, it's that when someone makes it out or you do better for yourself, it's always like, I have no issue reaching back and pulling someone, along. I love doing that. And I have a long track record and people who I've helped out and done that for. But it's like, at what point in time is the majority going to, kind of apply that same effort and energy, to do the same thing opposed to waiting for a handout? Dude, I've never, ever had a handout. I don't know how I would feel about it, and I wasn't raised that way. My dad was a very, very strict, extremely strict individual where being a man was everything, and quitting, that asking for help stuff just wasn't happening.
Yeah.
Figure it out, you can do it on your own, it'll work, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to me, it's the whole equal playing field, you know, to me, what needs to happen is equal opportunity. Everybody has an equal opportunity. And from my perspective, again, there's plenty of people that say, well, what do you know? You're a privileged white guy. I've never been handed a fucking thing, A.
Right.
And B is that, you know, I've seen enough people come, whether it's from other countries or ungodly horrible scenarios, even in this country, and have made enormous things of themselves.
And when you hear those stories, it's kind of hard to...
Yeah, so it's like if they can do it, anybody can do it. You know,
dude, if I can make it to where
right,
even wherever you perceive me to be now, dude, it's anybody can do it.
Yeah, and to me, you know, like I can look at people who were born into way better fucking deals than me. I can sit here and whine about that and say, you should give me some of that.
Right.
Or I can work my ass off and go take it,
right?
You know?
Yeah.
And to me, that's the single biggest issue I see is that victim mentality of instead of me just saying, you know what, the opportunity is there, I'm going to take advantage of it.
It's become comfortable to be the victim.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's what it is, man.
Yeah, and it's poisonous because the problem is that when you try to legislate or forcibly,
integrate,
or enact charity, like now you're just stealing.
Yeah.
You know, and if you think hardworking white folks that is just going to say we're just going to take that from you and give it to somebody else, like you're not going to make any friends doing that.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So I mean, we could fucking sit here and talk about it all day.
We should solve the world, man. We could. When I run for president in 2 years.
Irving 2020, is that happening?
I got too much back. Too many strip clubs, man. No.
Is there too many?
No,
yeah.
No, I don't know. I think it's a stressful job. I think anybody who has the balls or
the narcissism, maybe.
To be a run for president is that's too much, man.
No, I know it. I mean, it's stuff we could talk about all day here. We've been going damn near 3 hours already.
Damn, it's been that long.
Yeah, that's what she said.
I've been holding this piss in for 3 hours.
You got to go already?
I drank a lot of water on the way down.
Before we kind of wind down here, one thing I'm curious. I mean, I have strong opinions of my grievances, bitches, whatever. Are there any on your end? Are there things that you think to yourself, like, I think this is fucked up, you know, or I'd like to know more about that, or what? To me, the big difference between you and I in terms of our upbringing and experiences that I've generally been in the majority, and you've generally been in the minority, and so I think it's easier probably for me to develop content of things you always wanted to ask a black guy versus you've always been primarily surrounded by white people. So maybe you have less of that. Like you already know what you've won. Like you don't wonder as much as maybe.
I do wonder. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Like,
do I wonder about?
What do you wonder about? Like let's flip the fucking table.
That's a tough, I would say overall, I've never asked this question. And, you know, from seeing the TV that I do see, how would you say white people view black people average? Like on a day-to-day, if you walk through the store and you see 10 black guys, how is that perceived in today's society with all the bullshit on the news nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's such a general question in terms of there are some people just like, you know, you take 10 white people and put them somewhere, like, how are black people going to look at them? Well, fuck, it depends. You know, some are going to naturally think that they're racist. Some are probably going to want them there. Some are not going to want, you know.
Yeah.
So it's similar with white. I can tell you for me, and I truly believe most white people, just like I think most people, white, black, brown, whatever, I think that at this point in our society, I won't say necessarily in other parts of the world, but I would say most people in our society at this point view it as, how do you carry yourself first?
That's the way I've always wanted, not always, but that's the way I believe that other people think. Yeah. You know what I mean? But
I truly believe most people think that.
And that's what I, try to teach my son, why I carry myself a certain way. It's about how you act, you know, and how you present yourself and carry yourself.
Yeah. I mean, to me, like, if you're a disrespectful asshole. I don't care what color you are.
I'm the same way.
And on the same token, if you're a genuine good person, I don't give a fuck what color you are.
Yeah, same.
You know, so to me, like I don't really give a shit.
Yeah.
You know, and I truly believe most people are that way, and I think, you know, one of the questions was, are relations, race relations in this country as bad as they're portrayed? To me, it's a definitive no, in that, you know, most of your day-to-day interactions with people of different races, different colors, backgrounds, etc., are generally pretty fucking positive.
Yeah.
You know, it's rare that you have negative ones.
It really is. Yeah.
And unfortunately, when there are negative ones, they get so hyper highlighted that people start to think that that's the norm, and it isn't.
Yep.
You know, because I mean, how many times have you heard people talk about, say, politicians, in that, you know, when you sit down with anybody from any background and you sit down and whether they identify as a polarizing far left liberal versus a super hardcore right-wing conservative, those two people have actually, even as disparate as their political positions are, actually have way more in common than not.
Yeah. Yep.
They still ultimately, for the most part, want the same goddamn things.
They just focus and harp on these little small...
Yeah, they take the differences that are there and they highlight them to a point where they drive wedges, and you know, you see you know, media doing a great job. My hat's off to them and their ability.
Which sucks so bad, dude. If you wanted to say one of my big pet peeves, that would be it. It's the media. And I remember, like, I'm no fan of how things are run in today's government. You know, I think that we should have more power as a people. But I look at
That's some Black Panther shit, power to the people, right?
Right, dude, Wakanda forever, man. But I remember when Trump first made the statement of fake news, right? And I didn't understand exactly 100% what he was going after. But now I see, like, dude, the news is 100% just propaganda.
Yeah.
You know, it's a propaganda station, and it's sad. You know what I mean? That it's become so much of a power statement or propaganda powerhouse that people actually believe, so much so that what they see on that program, that it's everywhere in the world. And there's a black guy with the AK-47 under your ATM.
I saw a video of it.
I saw it myself, but
I was there.
Right? It's one of those things, man. I wish that the media would get back to, you know, reporting the news, things that are worthy, and
leave your opinion out of it.
Leave your opinion out of it, and let people form their own opinion. And I think that starts by getting outside and interacting with people. Yeah. And like you said, 9.9 times out of 10, interactions are going to be, hey man, you know, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I mean, I hate to see the division that takes place because it's overwhelmingly manipulated by the media. Is there anything else? Is it like the floor is yours, like something you always wanted to ask a white guy that you never have? Is there anything that falls, you know, whether it's a stereotype, a fucking, like, is it true that, whatever?
I got a good one, and I've experienced this twice now. Like, I like spices on my food.
Yeah.
And I haven't, like, I went to, whose house was it? I cannot say this person's house, but it just wasn't.
Some bland ass.
It was bland.
Food.
It was bland. I was like, wow, I didn't know that it could get this bland. You know, the spice was water.
Yeah.
But you know, it was weird. And I was like, man, I wonder if is that a real stereotype that, you know, white guys or white people don't like spices.
Yeah. I would say, generally speaking, I think most white people like spices less.
Why is that?
Fuck if I know. I mean, for me, I can tell you, I mean, like, I like spicy shit way more than I used to. Mm-hmm. For me, it's growing up in the Midwest, which is very, you know, kind of Northern European, boil the shit out of everything, you know, casseroles, hot dishes, fucking, you know, meat and potatoes. Casserole. Yeah, fucking casserole.
Yeah.
The hot dish up in Minnesota.
I like that.
But, you know, so everything was just pretty basic, and you know, you'd salt it or pepper it, but there wasn't a lot of spice used, you know, in a lot of the foods I grew up with. I mean, so that's for me personally. But yeah, I would say that, you know, from an ethnicity standpoint, it seems like, you know, your average American white household probably has less sexy shit going on in the kitchen.
Dude,
Then
you got to come to a black barbecue. Here you go.
Fucking sign me up.
Have you ever been to one?
I haven't. We got ribs on the fucking smoker right now.
What? You never been to a black barbecue? Man, I got to get you out.
Yeah,
you can just come barbecue with me.
I would. I'd hook it right up.
About all the black friends I have right now.
It's me. I'm your only black friend.
You're the only one I have, man.
All right. So what? So it's the spices. Yeah, I think that's an apt stereotype.
I've just been around enough white guys now that like there's not really much of a There's not much of a difference other than I don't really like fruit salad too much. But other than that, I mean,
you'll toss a salad.
I'll toss one, and if you like, hey, I could hook up some spicy food, man. Yeah. Hell yeah.
That's some funny
shit. I like
shit.
to cook. I do like to cook. I think that's like a black thing too.
Yeah. I
don't know. I like to cook. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've gone healthier now though. I've checked this out, man. I've picked this up from. This is how we can learn from all, one another. Notoriously, my family and black families, they don't have like the healthy foods. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I've been eating organic, like healthy stuff now, and it's been life changing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, props to my white friend for hooking me up with the recipes, man.
With the fucking directions to Whole Foods.
Hell yeah. Oh, dude, Whole Foods has been my, pretty much my, saving grace, man. Yeah. Whole Foods Market. I did not know that place existed.
Yeah.
It was like HEB was everything.
Are you fucking up some quinoa now or what?
Oh man, I got what do you call it? Seaweed crackers and.
Did you just call me a cracker?
Negative. I see that's where you can play. Yeah.
See, I'm hypersensitive to it now. That's some funny shit. Well, so there's some other stereotypes, right? Are there any that stick out to you that seem to be stereotypes that white people assume about black people that are either funny or bullshit or irritating or what? Yeah, we all, not even irritating. I think it's funny now that we all like chicken. Dude, there was a point in time, which is, I think everyone likes chicken. Well, so chicken and watermelon specifically.
That's the one, yeah. Chicken and watermelon.
Where does that come from? Do you
I don't know. I really don't know. But there was a point in time where I would pass by watermelon at Walmart or something. Yeah. And dude, I would want it so bad, but I'm just like, well, I'm black, dude. Yeah. I'm not picking this up. They're gonna, dude. I skipped watermelon for years, walking past it on a nice summer hot day in South Texas, bro, where it's like 110 degrees and a nice cold watermelon. I have passed up for years because if I took it to the counter, I was like, they're gonna say some shit. Yeah, I know what they're thinking. Yeah, but no, I just don't care. I'm like, dude, everybody likes watermelon. It's not. They didn't put that stuff here. Just like so you could point out the black guy when he gets to the water. Look, there he is. There he is. He's getting it.
Yeah.
We all like it.
Yeah, so to me, like shit like that should be laughed about. Yeah, right. Yeah. But same thing with white people. Like you can't dance or fucking whatever. There's plenty of that they can't cook. They don't like spices. They can't dance. They can't fuck.
But it's all funny though. It's funny. It's like we can all teach each other. And
to me, but I think that's step one is like. Let's bust each other's balls about it.
Yeah.
Whether you're making memes or fucking cracking jokes or whatever. I mean, here's another thing I would ask. Do you have any black friends that send you what most people would consider a racist meme about white people? Has anybody ever sent one to you?
Name one. I really don't know racist white jokes though.
Yeah, to me that's surprising. I guess that there isn't more like
I don't know
cracking jokes about fucking white people.
You'd have to name one. I know one racist derogatory, cracker. I know.
There's honky.
And honky. That's the only two I know then. That's the only two I know. Yeah. I don't know too many racist jokes. I don't know.
You guys never fucked with each other, huh?
Dude, I really don't have friends. That's what it is. I don't.
What it boils down to?
I have one, he's black, and his name is Dre. I grew up with him. Most of the time in high school and school, I was either fighting or getting picked on and bullied. So I was like, fuck everybody. I was out of there.
Fuck everybody. Here's one I have that I'm curious about. It's from a language standpoint, right? Mm-hmm. And it's something that you correct me if I'm wrong. I thought that you started to say it in talking about the Best Buy thing, it sounded like you started to say axe and then said ask.
I corrected myself. My mom was a big advocate on that.
So there's three words that I hear regularly that fall into that same category in terms of being pronounced a certain way, that they're not spelled that way.
Yeah.
That, I can count on one hand the amount of white people that I have seen or heard say them that way. Is axe, birthday, and screet instead of street.
That's a Southern thing. I learned that one in Georgia.
From white people?
Black people. Yeah.
But so those three things, like, do you have any idea where any of that comes from?
The Southern one, screet, I have no idea. I question that when, 'cause my mom's side of the family, she's from Georgia, and all my cousins would pronounce it, screet.
Yeah.
And I was always like, how do you get, where's the K come from, you know? That was my thing. I still don't know that. I thought it was like only a Georgia thing. It's weird you've heard that too.
Oh yeah.
I've only heard it in Georgia. I've never heard it like.
Yeah. I actually, it was funny. I watch CNN occasionally just because I like to watch multiple news sources and not just live in a fucking echo chamber. But Anderson Cooper was interviewing a Black Lives Matter guy, and I'm curious to get your take on Black Lives Matter too. He said it was. I was like, what in the fuck? He actually said, I'm getting ready to cross the street, and Anderson was like, the what? Like he wasn't trying to bust his balls. He was like, wait, the where?
Yeah.
He brought it up, and the guy was like, fuck you, whatever, and walked off. But so even on like mainstream TV, I've heard it. But I've heard it, whether it's in certain fucking songs or
like a Southern thing. It's whatever, weird to me too. I don't know.
But so how about the other two? So the screet thing, who knows? Is there any
axe and ask? Those that one has been around since I was a kid. My mom would pop you in the mouth or something if you said it. Are you gonna ask someone? You're not gonna kill anyone. Stuff like that is ask, and being able to pronounce that. I think for me, and I used to talk a certain way. It came from like the environment and the people I hung around, and slang was just a way of like, for some reason, I don't know why it's better to shorten words or make them.
It's easier to say.
Easier to say, and I don't know. But I was always taught, like, if I did talk like that, when I got around people outside of my neighborhood, I'd have to fix my language, and then that just got annoying after a while, going back and forth, so I just stuck to one that sounded and made me, a little bit more presentable, in public. And, dude, I always think ahead of time, like, multiple steps ahead, and I was like, well, I can't get a job, or no one's going to take me serious if I still talk like I did back on the street,
Yeah.
And I can't impress the girls' moms, man, You can't do that. So I had to change the way of talking. And then, I don't know, I think that once you change that, it kind of changes a lot of things, your whole perspective on.
So, is it safe to say, or would you say, I guess, at least in your experience, that it was born out of identifying where you came from?
Yeah. And what you're taught and how your parents, talk and stuff like that, like in the black community. Slang is just very, very, prominent in the black community. And, you, like even using the N-word, I don't even use that word anymore because of what I've learned, over time, what it meant, where it came from. But growing up, it was like how the military guys say the F-bomb every, I was dropping the N-word all the time.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait a minute, why am I... I'm not doing anything. I'm not helping anything. I'm not.
Well, to me, on a broader scale, and I know we talked about it a little bit in the first interview, was that to me, like, if you don't want a word used, then don't use it.
Exactly. Yep.
And again, like if that's textbook 101. If you want to breed animosity, do as I do, or do as I say, not as I do. Like, hey, I'll say this all day long, but if you say it, I'm gonna punch you in the fucking mouth. Like, that's a good way to alienate yourself.
All cancel that word out. It just doesn't make sense to me, anymore. It's just a childish mentality, I think, and I don't know, it just seems being a grown adult man and still talking like I'm 12, 15 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can't
be taken seriously after a while, and you get looked at a certain way. That's where I think stereotypes are kind of manifested, is where, if I were to, if you saw me in public and I'm just N-word all the time and sagging my pants, you're like, oh, this guy's a fucking thug,
Yeah.
And I would have to accept that. I would look at myself that way, you know. But
do you think that? And this is just purely a question. It's not even an assumption, or I just thought of it as you were talking. Mm-hmm. Do you think that there's a certain amount of pop culture between certain styles of music, certain TV shows, performers, entertainers, public personalities that romanticize a certain black culture of fuck everybody that's sexy and attractive?
Which is so weird to me, man. Yeah, I do agree. I do think so. And I think that it's kind of like pandered to in a way. It's just, it only fits it for a while. It's cool for a while, you know, and rappers and pop artists to, you know, try to, you know, fit that persona or whatever you want to call it. Like, bro, you know that's only going to be cool for like 5 years, right? You know, if you're good. Yeah. And after that, then it's back to regular, like the people with face tattoos, you know, unless you're Mike Tyson, you know, it's not cool. You know what I mean? It's just not cool.
Yeah.
Mike gets a free pass because he's like
fucking
80.
Mike Tyson.
Yeah, he's Mike Tyson. I don't want to get bit or hit, you know?
Or both.
Or both.
Yeah. No, I'm tracking. I mean, yeah, to me, it seems like it's a counterproductivity that exists that isn't doing anybody any favors.
Oh,
but, you know, because to me, you know, I'll take myself as an example. You know, when I was, you know, in my formative early teen years, I mean, this is in the height of the grunge era of the 90s, but, you know, the fucking white thermal shirt with a t-shirt over top of it, flannel, fucking long hair.
Oh, yeah.
You know, piercings, Vans, or fucking Airwalk, you know, skateboarder, grunge, you know, goth folks would you know, kind of be in that same category. But that, you know, that was popular with certain subsets of American culture at that age. And I dressed like a fucking dipshit. Like, to me, to dress that way now, you look like a fucking dipshit.
Yeah. Dude, I fit the whole demographic. If you would have seen, I got to send you a picture of me like back in high school.
Dude, that needs to be a throwback Thursday.
I am,
you
bro.
all fucking...
I'm always so embarrassed to do it because I'm like, dude, if I put this up, everyone's going to know what type of guy I was.
Now everybody's going to ask you to break into their ATM.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dude, I was that guy. Oh, yeah.
That's fucking great. Well, we could obviously talk about this all fucking day long. We spent a lot of time the first time and more time this time. I hope that as people listen to this, that they get some sort of guideline as to how to approach talking about shit that historically divides us, that just frankly shouldn't. And we all need to come together, as John Lennon would say. And
John Lennon,
you know, the fucking Beatles come together, right? Is that, you know, we need to be more unified and keep our fucking government accountable on both sides, I think. But before we wrap up here, I do want to talk about what you have going on now. If you're watching the YouTube thing, or if you're not, check out the YouTube video. We got his new book that's coming out here soon. It's part of the Reaper series, Threat Zero. Obviously, that's in the works. But can you talk about the other shit that you have going on?
Yeah. So other than the books, signed on for the next installment that comes out in 2020. So a lot of thinking and a lot of writing, and TV shows. Still working on one right now, waiting on some things to come through. And as of like a few days ago, last week, not even, I'll be working with Floyd Mayweather with a little bit of security stuff.
That's a fucking trip. Can you talk about how that panned out? Like, did he just approach you and say, "Hey, I want you to be my guy"? Or?
Pretty much, man.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Do you know how he found? Was it social media he found out about you? Or?
Yeah, social media, and so I was in Vegas, and
Vegas again.
Yeah, dude, I was in Vegas and about to give a speech. I have another in Vegas for some speeches and stuff like that. And I see him. First, I see a Rolls Royce pull up. I'm like, oh, that's pretty neat. You don't see those every day. And then I see a black guy in it, and I was like, well, you don't see that every day. And I was like, oh shit, that's Floyd Mayweather. So I walked up, and I knew one of the bodyguards from a long time ago. Actually, we crossed paths in New York, kept in contact off and on. And I just walked up, and I was like, hey, Floyd, boom. And he's like, what's up, man? And I was like, holy shit. And that kind of happened. And then the next day, dude, I get off the plane back here in Texas, and I get a phone call from one of his assistants or somebody, and he was like, hey, Floyd wants to talk to you and, you know, ask you a few questions and give you an offer on a few things, and dude, it was pretty much not all she wrote after that, but it's like presented with an opportunity that you don't get every day, and I'm a big believer in when doors are open, they're open for a reason, and they lead to somewhere. You know, you never find out if you don't walk through them. So.
Yeah. I'm curious. What was he like in person? Is he similar to how his persona is on TV? And
less dramatic, I would say. He's still like the same guy. But what I did notice, he's more of a family guy and more calm now. You know what I mean? It's not so much. Dude, I think most of that stuff on TV, it's for ratings and whatnot. But when the cameras are off, you get a chance to see, like, that goes for any celebrity that I've worked with. And when the cameras are off, you see, like, dude, they're no different than me or you. Some people may be a little bit more flamboyant or, you know, more outgoing or whatnot. And some people are secluded, and, you know, it just all depends. But at the end, I mean, you really don't see anything that's like, oh my gosh, this guy is out of control. It's like, holy shit, you know, that's Floyd Mayweather. And
I mean, so he fought at 145, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, standing eye to eye to him, like, he's smaller than you, right?
Yeah.
Was there any part of you that looks at him and be like, I bet I could fucking...
Dude, I'm not going to lie. So check this. After, like... Yeah, okay, yeah.
I don't sweat you, Floyd.
I'll say it a little bit. I was like, I wonder, because I've started boxing again, and I was like, I wonder, because looking at someone like that, you're like, how is he that good?
Yeah.
You know? And
because he's fucking small, right?
Yeah.
I mean...
Oh, yeah. My brain must have forgot skill or something. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure he could, like, outbox me. I mean, not pretty sure. I'm 100% sure. But it's just weird seeing a professional fighter, you know, face to face, and... Yeah, you wonder, but then I'm just like, I'm pretty sure, you know, I'd get hit 5 times before I knew it happened.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think there's especially with guys like us too, is there's an inherent difference between combative sports and combat.
Exactly. Yeah. I look at something at one way, it's like, well, yeah, you know how where I want to go, but I can't talk about Floyd because he's my boss. So it's going to be something like that. And I'm like, well, it's, I know like the violence that we can bring to the table opposed to someone who does it for a sport is totally different. You know, I won't go into a boxing match well, I would in a boxing match, but like a fight to, you know, score a point or anything like that. I'm trying to get done with this thing in like 0.5 seconds as fast as possible.
With minimal damage to me.
Minimal damage to me. I have to go home and kiss my baby and stuff like that. And I have a son. So getting my ass beat as a dad now, it just can't happen. Dad, you can't tell me what to do. You got your ass beat, you know? You're right, son.
Floyd punked you out.
Right? You're right.
I'm going to call Floyd when I get to the
right. Time out. I'm going to call Floyd, Dad. You're right,
Christ.
son. I'm going to go to my room.
Yeah.
You know?
That's fucking great. So you got that going on. You got Threat Zero coming out. When does Threat Zero come out?
May 21st.
So it's coming up here soon. This will probably air not long after that or real close to that. Can you synopsize it or? Pretty
much, yeah. So it's a pickup from the Ghost Target series, but this one, if you guys remember my spotter from the last installment, something happens with him and a presidential family motorcade on Family Day. Ambush, a bunch of people die. My spotter commits suicide on a live stream and kind of admits all of his, you know, involvement with this big ambush. And it's up to me to kind of, or Vic Harwood, to investigate how did this happen or what exactly happened. And the deeper you go into the rabbit hole, you find out that this may or may not have been a secret government cell organization with like a little back-end plot or scheme to get something done in their favor. So they're using a particular set of skills and individuals from special operations to kind of fit those needs.
That's fucking great. If you haven't checked out the other books that Nick has written, please do so. They're all fantastic, and he truly has a gift for it. So I appreciate you sending these. We are going to give some signed, customized copies away for the listeners. We've got a whole stack of them here, and he's going to sign them too. So,
heck yeah.
So be on the lookout for that. In terms of the video game stuff, anything you want to share on that?
Oh, I forgot about that one, dude. It's going to drop later on this year. You can actually play it on your phone now. It's called Forces of Freedom before my character is implemented. It's like a beta test right now, but they average like 25 million monthly players and stuff like that. It's a neat game. It's not like a long, drawn-out game. It's all live, and you're playing with other players from across the world, and like a little quick 5-minute capture the flag death match,
Nice.
with real soldiers and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, that's good shit. And in terms of, are you doing any type of consulting work, shooting wise? Are you still doing much of that, or?
It's been a while, man. Just like I shoot when I can and I get trigger time in, but to teach someone else, it would just with time right now would be kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
I'd rather put it in a book or a YouTube video, and it would probably be way more beneficial than
one-on-one lesson.
Yeah.
And you're not running any courses or anything like that right now? Yeah.
But I do have artwork.
Really?
Oh, yeah, dude. I picked up drawing again.
Well,
so my art's being sold in it's a place called Lock and Terra in San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio Artists Collective is what it's called.
Can people go online and check it out? Or buy it?
Yeah.
Where do they go to look at that?
Go to my Instagram page. I totally forgot what to go to, but I know it's on my Instagram page.
And for those listening, if you could spell out the handle just so they get it right.
Oh, Official Reaper 33. So Official Reaper, REAPER 33, the number 33.
Yeah. So go there to check out all the shit that Nick has going on. One thing I wanted to ask, I didn't realize you played fucking guitar.
Guitar, piano.
Did you just start, or have you played for years?
If you look at the first video I posted up, I learned like 2 weeks before that.
Get the fuck out, really?
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm playing like a couple months now.
Yeah, it's fucking nuts, man. Some of the clips you've played that you've shown and you playing, I'm like, well, goddamn.
Dude, but the piano helped out. Growing up, I played the violin, piano, and wanted to try saxophone, but for some reason, I just didn't want to play saxophone. It was like one of those things for a guy to play it back then.
Yeah.
But
I played saxophone.
You did?
I did. Growing up when I was in elementary school.
What?
Tenor sax, that was me for a couple of years. Yeah.
Can you still play?
I doubt it.
That's something I want to pick up is saxophone. I think it's got a nice little tone to it.
I haven't even. I mean, the last time I even tried was 6th, 7th grade, probably.
Oh,
so
okay, yeah.
I doubt I could. It'd sound like a fucking whale being harpooned.
Is it hard to play?
Not. I mean, to me, the biggest challenge was with the mouthpiece, there's a little wooden reed, that has like maybe a 1/16 of an inch between the reed and the mouthpiece itself. That when you exhale into that, it's using your lips, your mouth, your tongue, how tight you're pursing your lips, all of that in conjunction with exhaling. Like, to me, that was the hard part.
Oh, gotcha.
Kind of like with bagpipes or, probably trumpet or whatever, is that a lot of the kind of the flavor of the sound comes from what you're doing with your mouth.
Okay. And that's why I would have a hard time. Guitar and piano, the sound is what the sound is, generally. But
Yeah. So that was the trick. I mean, again, I did it for a couple of years, and it was tail into elementary.
I got to see you play a saxophone, man. No shirt on.
There you go.
Here we go.
This is taking an interesting twist.
That's my Christmas card gift to me.
Shit just got weird.
Love it.
At any rate, again, thanks for coming up. As always, had a great combo with you.
Appreciate it.
I hope that people listen to this and gain some insight both in how amazing of a gentleman Nick is, but also on the broader scale of how we conduct ourselves as a society in talking to people and treating one another and not making assumptions, but also being open and honest and respectful enough to talk about things that historically seem to be hard for people to talk about and uncomfortable and polarizing. So I hope that you guys got that out of that. I appreciate, as always, you guys listening in and giving us the platform to be able to bring you the content, because it is truly a pleasure to be able to do it. And I am continually humbled by your guys' support. So thank you, as always. And until next time, this is Mic Drop.